30,000 or 23,000 Kenya shillings to ensure that his family is at par with the normal life. So this is not just an expenditure problem, it's an asset deprivation or depletion. So when water disappears, household wealth completely evaporates. So he has to rethink on where to get it. There is a photo, the next slide, go to the next slide kindly, sorry for that, next, yes, this one. So in a normal case scenario, this is a healthy cow. And Mongasio would sell this cow for 30,000. You remember our initial mathematics? So if he sells one cow, he's able to sustain his family for that particular month. Remember I said Mongasio doesn't have a monthly salary, so he depends on his livestock. Now, when drought strikes, you see the cow has lost weight, then definitely Mongasio needs to rethink and replan. I want us to go to the next case study of a school. It's called Goso Primary. Just the slide before that. Yes, Goso Primary. It is still within the same Narok village. And in this particular school, we have 120 pupils, boys and girls. Because when you look at the data there, girls have more than boys. And we have 11 teachers. In that particular school, there is no water. Now, what normally happens, for those of us who are the millennials, way back we used to go to a river, fetch water, take it back to the school. So in this particular village, there is drought, there is no water. So these particular kids, they need to wake up very early in the morning to go to a certain spring, wherever, fetch the water, bring it back to school for school usage. Now look at that time where this particular kid or this particular pupil is supposed to be revising or studying or studying specifically. So that's a lost time in her education. And for this, what we are saying is, tunahatarisha elimu ya watoto wetu. We all speak of good education for our kids. But then if that kid wastes that particular time in search for water, then the other kid who is somewhere where water is readily available, there is that discrepancy when it comes to education equity for all. When you flip the coin on the other side, and I think the earlier speakers mentioned about the gender aspect of it when it comes to this, it's our women, it's our girls, it's our mothers, it's our wives, who eventually would, after doing all the other duties, would also end up ensuring that they go and look for water. And the other duties, we talk of the cooking, the washing, and all that. So every hour that particular girl spends searching for water is an hour stolen from her education. Every hour, those particular kids, it's still the same hour that is stolen out of them. And so what is our call to action today? We sit here, we do a reflection as a team, as SPU family, as our church networks, as the civil society, government in absentia. And we are saying that protecting water isn't just about sinking boreholes. It is about saving that Mongasho's livestock from 200 Kenya shillings. It is about keeping our girls in school and preserving the economic dignity of our people. I say imagine uhai. In English we say water is life. Thank you so much. I would want to usher in our next presenter on the same economies of scale when we talk of the economics of water. Karibu sana Janet Nandwa. Janet Nandwa is, she's cohort 3, a Grape team, a very able, beautiful lady from Baringo County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Benedine. Thank you so much. And I'll be speaking about the voices from the ground and what it just means, the statistics from the households. She spoke about Mongasio's household, Mongasio Oleyenko, the pastoralist. And the whole burden of fetching water and hauling the jerry cans. It falls, and it's a burden that falls on women and the girls. And still, the care work for the livestock and the household, it leaves the young girls very little time for school. During the Grape's visit to Narok, a woman from the neighboring village had been trampled by an elephant while going to fetch water from a stream. So, as much as this burden falls on women and girls, it also means the cases of gender-based violence goes up for women and girls. Then there was the case study for the head teacher, Janet Pere from Ngoso Primary School. And she said that every day the pupils have to, and the teachers, they have to carry water from homes, from streams, from wherever, just because the school has no reliable source of water. So what does this mean? The younger children bring 3 liters of water, the older ones come with 5, and they would obviously arrive to school late, fatigued, and this means it would have an implication on their studies. So basics like hand washing becomes a challenge. This is a student in Ngoso Primary who's expected to compete on same levels with a student from Aga Khan Primary, from what school do we call? Limuru Primary, from a school that does not suffer the same problems with water. This is a student that is also expected to go to Alliance High School, same as a student in, yeah, you name those schools. Very full. So what is the economic cost? Next slide, please. What is the economic cost to education? Water scarcity means children collecting and carrying water. This also means a time and physical burden to the children. It also means fatigue. It also means late arrival. It also means absenteeism. It also means reduced learning opportunities. This means lower human capital. And the economic costs may appear years later. We may not see it today. We may not see it now. But years later, when you compare this child with a child in Limuru, with a child in Nairobi, with a child in Eldoret, for example, they would not be anywhere close. Because poor access to water means that the poor access to water today, it affects school attendance, it affects the learning, it affects transition, it affects completion, it affects the future employment opportunities and also future earning opportunities. From the 2 stories that we got, from the 2 stories, back. I think you've gone ahead. Just go back. Next. Next. You have different slides from mine. Slide number 9. Thank you. No, we still don't have the same ones, but it's okay. Slide number 10 from your end. Why do we have different slides? Anyway, let me do it from my end. From these 2 stories, one economic problem. From the Mungasio household, we have water costs during drought. We have livestock losing value from 30,000 to 200 shillings to 500 shillings. We have women spending hours in search of water. We have household assets being depleted We have families paying for more for less. From the Ngoso Primary School, we have children carrying water from homes. We have learning time being affected. We have children arriving fatigued and just not being able to learn. Education outcomes are threatened, and also families carrying the cost of water. So the water insecurity shifts the cost from the systems to the households. So next. So the hidden cost of Kenya already pays for water insecurity. In health, for example, the waterborne diseases, name them, cholera, typhoid, bilharzia, diarrhea, from the Ministry of Health reports of 2023, they say in 2021-2022, over 10.5 million people required treatment for intestinal worms only. This tells you how bad this situation is. On labor productivity, workers that spend more time in search of water, sourcing for water for families, for chores, for running businesses, or a fifth or a third of their income in buying the same, work with constrained capacities compared to those that have water already. So this means guaranteeing water, it releases the capacity, it releases the potential of the labor forces back to the economy. The women's economic participation, women and girls that bear the burden of water collection and ensuring that we have water in our households, and also face harassment and danger doing it. So those hours that are suppressed, it really denies them economic potential and also not fixed to the fact that it is geographical. So this means women are disproportionately affected. So the education outcome, when we want to talk of the education outcome, is the example I gave earlier. You would not want to compare a child in Tiati constituency with a child in Nairobi, Runda in Nairobi, Karen in Nairobi, Kileleshwa, you know. So children who carry water that arrive fatigued, girls who fetch it, fall behind in their studies, you know. So Kenya's highest return infrastructure investment, not a cost to be managed, but a return to be realized. They say that framed from the language of the National Treasury, the 50 liters guarantee is an investment case. It is not a welfare line item. When we go to the foundation of better, better was there. Who knows what better means? Bottom up, beautiful. Bottom up transformation agenda. That is what brought the current government to being, right? Bottom up. Bottom up. Tumesema tunatoka bottom tunaenda? Very good. The agricultural transformation, the SMEs growth, the universal service delivery, they each presuppose reliable water. A legitimate claim on the global climate finance that Kenya contributed minimally to the crisis and it deepening in the water insecurity. The case for dedicated adaptation funding is very strong, and from the Grape community and from the Grape perspective, we really support it actively. So from this small mathematics, from the water organization, it estimates that every dollar invested in water and sanitation yields $4 in economic returns. So it is productivity gained, health cost averted, schools attendance recovered, and women labor realized. Okay, next slide. So the prices of water is not equal. Those that have least access are the ones that pay more. The people in Kibra, for example, pay more for water compared to the others in the other estates in the other region. Mungasi's story demonstrates how water can increase dramatically, how the price of water can increase dramatically during drought. It is the same with those living in cities. It is the same with those living in big towns. A case of floods increases the need for water. A case of dryness, in case it's not been raining this year so much. So what does that mean to those people in urban areas also? They would pay a lot for water. Who pays more for water? The households connected to a reliable supply, or the household forced to buy water from vendors when droughts strike, when floods strike, when there's an issue with the climate as is. So water insecurity creates a regressive economic burden, and the poorer and the water insecure households can spend disproportionately on securing basic water while also losing productive time and assets. Thank you so much for your attention, and I am begging you to clap for me.
And we have accepted to clap for you because of that good presentation. Thank you so much. Let's give her a clap again. I think now all of us, we are at par in terms of what is happening in terms of households, economy, health, education, and all that. So we can now agree that water is it's cutting across all divides, and so we must have it. So we want to welcome Carol, and then for again a short presentation on the same continuation, and then we shall be having the theology.
Thank you very much. Riding on the already established protocols, good morning everyone. My name is Carol Jebet. They have not introduced me. I'm a Grape member. Grape 4, I come from Baringo County, and I'm very delighted because from the conversation or the what we've been told or the conversations that we've had since, we seem to share a common goal, a common agenda. We are all talking about lack of water, what it means to us, what it means to our society, what it means to the economy of a nation. And when the DVC, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, was talking, I remembered Janet has said that here is the White Highlands. We come from the dry, the arsal areas of Baringo, of the country that is in Baringo County, where mostly the peril or the dangers mostly goes beyond just dryness, but what comes with lack of water. That is human, wildlife conflicts, human conflicts. And so from the conversations, we've seen how the children in Ngoso Primary School, the Mogashos and the family, how they really suffer during droughts. And we ask ourselves, from this conversation, from what we've heard from the two stories, then what? Then what? The two stories of the water insecurity is not simply about the absence of water. It has real economic costs, and the household have to pay more. Livelihoods are weakened where the dependencies, people who have been relying on their livestock, the livestock die, the livestock prices goes down, and they are not able to sustain themselves beyond the droughts. And women and girls lose so much productive time, and children lose opportunities to learn. So the question now comes, what do we do about this? What needs to be done? And that's why the Grape policy proposal comes in. We are proposing for a minimum water threshold gap for every Kenyan. And what is the minimum threshold? That every person gets access to clean and safe water, at least 50 liters per person per day, or an equivalent compensation of the same. this proposal is very straightforward, that Kenyans should be guaranteed a minimum of 50 liters of clean and safe water per person per day. Where infrastructure has not reached a household, a right should not disappear. An equivalent compensation mechanism would provide a safety net while government works towards direct delivery. This is because, and that is how we are shifting the question, instead of asking, how much will guaranteeing access to water cost to the government? And that is what mostly goes in our minds. Like now we've said, since you came into this room, you've been thinking, the word success of 50 liters of water per person per day, or an equivalent compensation by 2028. One common question that has hovered around our minds, or your mind today when we are seated here, is the how, right? The how. Where will this money come from? That not push the economy higher? Will that not demand for higher taxes? Will that not lead us into high national debts? How? But we should now focus on how much is Kenya already losing because people do not have reliable access to water. Janet has already presented unto us the investment on how investing in water translates into more when we invest in water. An investment in water will lower household water costs, protect household assets like the Mongasho's livestock. It will reduce disease burdens. We've seen how the government need to invest more money in bringing drugs for cholera, treating amoeba, and the worm treatments. It will also release women's productive time, the unpaid care work, the burden of fetching water for a family instead of going to vent for the families in the marketplaces or even to work, improve school attendance. It will improve productivity, strengthen household resilience, and strengthen the economy. This will make why does this make economic sense? Because already we know that we have protected household income, protected productive time, and also protected human and household capital. A minimum water guarantee is an investment in Kenya's human capital, household resilience, and economic productivity. And on that, the economic argument, therefore, is not simply that the government should spend more money on water. It guarantees water can reduce the much larger economy cost that households and country are already paying for water security. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. All the way now that ends that session of now the statistics and all that. Allow me to invite, now we are talking about the pledge. Before the pledge, we have the water, the theology of water. I think Beatrice is here, and Beatrice is an alumni of this institution. She always tells me that she serves humanity and therefore God. And I say I serve God and therefore humanity. So Beatrice is here for the theology.
Thank you very much. And I'm humbled. This is a personal journey. And before I share with us how personal it is, I'd want to first greet us all and express my sincere gratitude to our VC, because I came to St. Paul's as a distance learning student, and through joint learning initiative, it was a 3-day training. I was like, I need to be in this space. There's more for me, and it has really shaped me academically and actually holistically. And I feel honored to share a story that will explain why it is so personal for me as a theologian. And before I go to that one, let me start from known to yes. When the well is dry, we know the worth of water. It's an African proverb. There are some conversations that stay with you long after the end. One afternoon, as I sat with my grandfather, his name is Gashero Musheke, who many people know as Wamwega or goodness, our conversation once again turned to water. At his age, some memories come slowly. He's right now 96 years old. Names are sometimes forgotten. Dates occasionally becomes blurred. Yet whenever he speaks about water, his mind becomes surprisingly clear. It is as if the rivers themselves still flow through his memory. Looking towards the direction of the Aberdare Ranges where I come from, he spoke with the confidence of a man who has walked those forests and followed those streams with his own feet. The Aberdares can supply water for the whole country, he said. Then he paused. You have been there. We know its potential. There was no politics in his voice, no anger, no attempt to impress anyone, only conviction, the conviction of a man who has spent a lifetime observing God's creation. The government should not be afraid of using what God gave us freely, he continued. People should have clean and safe water. That is life. As I listened to him, I realized that my grandfather and I speak about water using different languages. I speak the language of advocacy. He speaks the language of... I speak about policy, rights, and social protection. He speaks about women walking long distances carrying water in his context. I speak about climate justice. I speak about rivers. I speak about public participation. I speak about community meetings under church. He speaks about community meetings under church trees. Yet beneath our different words lies the same truth, that water is life. In many African communities, this truth did not need to be taught. People already knew it. Our grandparents understood that when rain delayed, hunger followed. When springs dried up, our conflicts often increased. When rivers were healthy, communities flourished. Among the Agikuyu, I am Nyambura. Among the Agikuyu, water was never viewed as an isolated resource. It belonged to a wider relationship between people, land, forest, and God. A river was not simply water moving downstream. A river was life moving through a community. A spring was not merely a source of water. It was a source of hope. This understanding shaped the thinking of Wamwega's generation. When he and his colleagues brought piped water from River Gashororia, they were not merely constructing infrastructure, they were protecting life, they were protecting dignity, they were protecting the future. Looking back today, I often think that my grandfather practiced water justice long before he ever had the term. He never attended a conference on water justice. He never wrote a policy paper. He never used words such as sustainable development or equitable access. Yet he understood something that many modern societies sometimes forget. Water should serve people, not the other way around. His generation knew that it meant what it meant to struggle for water. They knew the burden placed on women and children. They knew the risks of drinking contaminated water. They knew the difference that clean water could make. Perhaps this is why Wamwega never speaks about water project as an achievement for himself. He speaks about what it did for people. the women who walked shorter distances, the children who spent more time in schools, the families who gained healthier lives, the communities that learned new practices of stewardship. For him, leadership was never about being remembered. It was about making life better. As a theologian, now myself, I've come to appreciate how deeply biblical his understanding of water really is. The Bible begins with water. Before human beings appeared in the creation story, the Spirit of God moved over the waters. Throughout Scripture, water appears again and again as a sign of God's provision. When the Israelites wandered through the wilderness, God provided water. The prophets envisioned rivers flowing through dry land. Jesus met a Samaritan woman at a well and spoke about the living water. The book of Revelation ends with a river flowing from the throne of God. Water runs through the biblical story from the beginning to the end. Perhaps that's because water runs through life itself. Without water, there's no food. Without water, there's no health. Without water, there's no agriculture. Without water, there's no community. Without water, there's no future. That is why water is not simply an environmental issue. It's a justice issue. It's a dignity issue. It's a theological issue. And it's a human issue. Years after Wamwega Water Project transformed communities around the Aberdares, I found myself entering a different world, a world of advocacy, a world of research, a world of policy engagement. Through the Global Reformed Advocacy Platforms for Engagement, that is Grape, a program of the World Communion of Reformed Churches, implemented together with the Economic Policy Research Institute, I joined a movement seeking to address one of the Kenyans' most urgent challenges, access to clean and safe water. The program equips us churches with, we have produced our first copy of Now Equipping Churches, and researchers and advocates to engage issues of economic justice and climate justice through research, theological reflections, and public action. The campaign goal is both simple and ambitious. By 2028, every Kenyan should have access to at least 50 liters of clean and safe water per person per day, or receive equivalent cash compensation where that minimum amount cannot be provided. The campaign is grounded in the belief that water is life, that access to water is a matter of human dignity, and that equitable access to water is a theological mandate for social and economic justice. The first time I encountered that vision, I immediately thought of my grandfather. I thought about River Gashororia. I thought about the journey into the forest. I thought about community meetings in churches and schools. I thought about women carrying water. I thought about the day water finally flowed. Suddenly, the distance between the village and the conference rooms did not seem so large. The questions were the same. How do we ensure that every person has access to water that is clean and safe water? How do we protect God's creation? How do we ensure that development serves people rather than leaving them behind? How do we pass life to the next generation? The language has changed. The challenge has not. Today, Kenya continues to face significant water inequalities. Despite progress, many communities still struggle to access reliable and clean water. Water scarcity, pollution, climate change, and pressure on catchment areas continue to affect millions of people. The Grape campaign continues. The Grape campaign notes that many Kenyans still lack access to basic drinking water services, even while water remains essential for health, for our livelihoods, agriculture, and human dignity. Whenever I reflect on these realities, I remember something my grandfather often said, water is life. 3 simple words, yet they carry the wisdom of a generation, of generations. They carry the memories of rivers. They carry the lessons of forests. They carry the hopes of communities. And they carry a challenge for our own generation. Omega Stories teaches us that water justice is not only about government policies, though policies matters. It is not only about technology, though technology matters. It is not only about money, though investments matters. Water justice begins when people decide that the well-being of their neighbors matters. That was the spirit that led a group of community leaders into the Aberdare forest many years ago, and it is the same spirit that continues to inspire water justice advocacy today. The river is still flowing, but the question is whether we will have the wisdom to protect it and the courage to share it. God bless you. And now, that one was from the known. And now we had a presentation with Dennis Karibia. Yes, come we. This is something that has been impacted to us by our wonderful conveners, Claudia and Duke. And that's what we shall present right now. Yeah, we were tasked to do the theology of the right to water for all. And as he comes, what I was reading is a complete book that was birthed through this learning from what I've gathered in St. Paul's and what our wonderful conveners have been teaching us. And I felt I should share. So the theology of the right to water for all. And today we are looking at water from a theological and a biblical perspective where we say that water is more than a physical need. It is connected to life, dignity, justice, and God's creation. And the Bible begins with water in the creation story and ends with the river of the water of life in Revelation 22. Therefore, the biblical story gives us a strong basic for thinking about access to water. And the question is not simply how much water do people have. The deeper question is how should God's people respond when some people have water while others do not have. Karibu Dennis.
Thank you. A clap for Beatrice kindly. It's always important to tie, because we are Africans and we tell stories, and stories reflect much better to us when we think about such issues, and she has brought out a very interesting perspective from the known. But we need to ask ourselves, how does water come in when we think about theology? My name is Dennis. I'm a theologian here at St. Paul's. It's a great privilege to be amongst the company of you who are up for the campaign for water. So just begin by posing a question to us. When you hear or when you think about thirst, what comes to your mind? And in a second or two, just converse with your neighbor. When you think about thirst, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind when you hear the word thirst? Same presentation, same slide where we were. First slide. Yeah, thank you. There, that's where we are. Tired. Nasikia kiu. What else? Water. Yes? Dry food. I hope it's not Githeri or Mokimo. You're in Murima. But nonetheless, thirst may not just be seen in terms of water, but there is a whole aspect of thirst. When thinking about it even theologically, there is a whole thing. And I want us to begin from what we see in the Accra Confession, WCRC 2004. Economic systems that produce poverty and exclusion are theologically a problem, not merely just a political one. And so every text we look at as we pass through the arc We'll be looking at every single step, go to the next slide, on how theology informs the aspect of water. And we begin by naming the problem, the issue that is raised by Amos in Amos chapter 5, from verse 21 to 24. That I hate and I despise your religious festivals. Let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never falling stream. And for us who are theologians, there's something we learn from this. It's not, the verse 24 does not just call for lesser worship, no. It calls for justice to replace empty rituals. And you see, we are famous as Kenyans just of writing so much in terms of policy, doing a lot of research, but where it does not impact. And I like the words fronted here in the same setting that we are in, that we have to have a confrontational kind of faith that speaks to the issues that we have. And so theology offers such a space that we can actually confront issues within the community and society and name the problem. But the most interesting thing is seeing how the river is used. You see, water in the desert is a very precious commodity. And an ever-flowing stream is a testament of freedom. Are we together up there? So an ever-flowing stream is a testament of freedom. It's a testament that justice is actually moving on. And so when you go to this next slide, the bridge is seeing what Isaiah in 58, 6 and 12 says. Again, the rejection, prayer and fasting offered while workers are exploited, rituals corrected with no justice underneath. And what is accepted, as you see in verses 6 and 7, is losing the chains of injustice. Like what we are doing here today. Because when we deny people water, that is an injustice. Clothing the naked, justice practice as true fasting. And I want to think about this because I think most of us, apart from the ones who come from Limuru, you took a shower, but I'm not saying the ones who come from you did not take a shower. I know it's really cold. But if you do not have the hot shower, probably, because I know, think about the amount of water you actually wasted by running the shower for 20 minutes. Just think about the water that was running on the tap when you were brushing your teeth, because the measure of how clean our teeth are is how fast the tap runs as we are brushing. Right or false? Is it true or false? Yeah, we run the tap as we brush our teeth. So the water is just flowing, but really. And then now reflect on that, ask yourself, the person who's in Baringo, the person in Takana, the person in along the Tana River belt. This is the kind of injustice we are talking about. And we're saying justice and water abundance, they're not two separate blessings. It is community that practices justice and becomes the source. That is what we look at and we see the kind of Christianity or the kind of religion we ought to practice. Now, moving forward, we see water as a gift and not a commodity. Grounding the right in creation. Right from the scripture, we see Genesis presents that this is the Genesis, water brought on life, as you see in the creation stories. But beyond that, you see what the psalmist does and says, God springs waters in the valleys, provision that satisfies creation before it even asked for the same. And Job can only strengthen that particular statement and direct and says that God actually directs the rain, even to places where no one lives. And you can see how water should not be seen as something that should be withheld, but rather it is a gift. It is not a commodity. Now this is the incarnational point that we need to come to when you think about theology, where it becomes practical. Now look at John chapter 4, 1 to 42, a very interesting story about the Samaritan woman and her encounter with Jesus Christ. She has 4 layers, 4 limitations that limit her to become. But we see how she transforms. And when we think about the 4 layers, look at them from an ethnic perspective. She is a Samaritan, a population that is actually despised by the Jews for centuries. Think about gender. Unfortunately, the prof has already left. She's a gender advocate. But look at the layer. She is alone, a Samaritan. She's in the public square with a Jew who's a man, and there is no one because water will be collected in the morning. So you can actually see she comes in the afternoon, and so many questions. How many husbands have you had? And even the one in your house is not. So you see at the levels of exclusion that the scripture brings out, and you see that. Talk about social that I've just actually mentioned about. The hour she goes to fetch out water. And so you realize there is so much we see in that. But lastly, of course, the religious aspect, that she was excluded from the true covenant community. That is from their perspective. So what does it look like for us who are seated here, religious as we are, yet we forget that we are one, created by God. El Bara, from nothing, we became, and we have secluded ourselves. We create communities that are abstract, yet we are one community of the Lord. And lastly, you see the provision and the advocacy that is held together. Looking at Exodus 17:1-7, a verse that I really love so much, a passage, let me call it a pericope I love so much. God is present, and he says, I will stand before you by the rock. Provision actually precedes the cry. And this is the interesting thing, that Moses, when asked to actually strike, he does strike. And lastly, water flows. I think the biggest challenge for us as individuals, as Kenyans who are seated here, do we have Moseses who will take the rod that was actually used as the punishing tool in Egypt and strike? Because I believe, and what I think is that we are missing Moseses in Kenya. Ask your neighbor, are you a Moses? Yeah. We are missing people who will stand firm and strike the rock. And today we are having this conversation because the rock we want to strike are the policies. The rock we want to strike is what the government can actually do, the change we require, because water needs to flow in every aspect. And this is the resolve that we actually need, as you see in Revelations that was alluded to by Beatrice. We need to see water flowing in different aspects. And advocacy now is not idealism, no. It is participation in a future that God has already declared. A future where every single one of us can actually turn the tap and get water. And if they cannot turn the tap, then from a place they can actually get the water and they will not be oppressed economically. That is the kind of eschatological hope we look forward to, because the hope we look forward to is freedom. The hope we look forward to, there is no suffering. And so this is the kind of thing we actually need from where we sit. And so every act of justice today is a rehearsal of Revelations 22. So this is the movement in the next slide that we need to see that encompasses the one arc that we are looking for. A movement from what is covenantal, what has been promised to us, to the realization that what we have is actually provided for, even in scripture, even in the Quran, from creation. And that we can actually incarnate like where we are right now. This is the turn around moment for each and every one of us, where we are so charged enough to advocate for the eschatological hope that we look for in terms of water. Finally, this is also what we actually advocate for as we wind up. That, final slide, that water has to flow. It is not just theoretical. It's not just economic or social change. Theology also speaks to this. And so it's the same cry that every person who's standing here is saying. Let's look for these 50 liters of water. And if you think about it, it's not so much. How much do you spend when you flush the toilet? 8 liters to 10 liters in that cistern. How many times do you go to the toilet? Interesting, eh? Very interesting. How many times do you go? So if you went probably 4 or even 6 times, you're already beyond the 60 liters. You've not taken a shower, you've not drank water, you've not even cooked, you've not washed your clothes. Hello? So 50 liters per person is actually minimal. I do not believe it's enough. But we are saying this is the recommendation. And if we can't get it running on the taps, let's have an equivalent compensation to each and every person. Thank you. That was the logical perspective. All right. I am reminded we have the CBS that Beatrice is showing us. We have physical copies. They may not be enough for each and every one of us. But we are going to share the QR code for this. Just go to the artwork slide. That is the 4th one. 4th. Up there. 2nd page. We have QR codes for what we are doing. So the first slide is the contextual, the CBS manual. So you can get the soft copy of this. What we are doing, you can actually get it from their Grape Kenya campaign. the Grape Water Conference Program, what you're doing today, and of course, Grape Campaign webpage of the entire Grape program in Africa. And they're actually free of charge. So just tell you, it's free of charge. Thank you so much.
Let us clap for them for that very good, inspiring presentation. I think it's getting even better now that we have even a material you can refer to. This is now what God says to us, God in action. Word of God bringing, the word into context of water, justice. Thank you so much. Now we will have, because we have sat for long before we have the policy brief, I feel in the spirit that we can talk about a river that is flowing. And this river, of course, rivers flow with water, and there is a river that comes from God that brings peace and all that. And so I invite all of us kindly to be upstanding as I collect information I didn't have. I didn't know that you guys in the morning you had breakfast. And I'm told that the tea you were talking about, it is at work, it's operational. And so I'm happy about that. I think I'm the only one who didn't take that. That's the reason I missed that, but I will take it in the afternoon. But now we can have a hymn as we stretch, as we reflect about the river that we're talking about. God works in a miraculous way. And so we ask the IT to give us this hymn, and I'm sure it is going to reflect. It's when peace like a river attendeth my way. Good, we can have it. I'm not a good, but we can start. You know the piece? Yes. Attendeth my way when sorrows like sea billows roll. Whatever, my Lord, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. Though Satan should buffet, though trial should come, let this blessed assurance control, that Christ has regarded my helpless estate and has shed his own blood for my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my soul. And Lord, haste the day when the face shall be sight, the clouds be rolled back as a scroll, the trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well with my is well, it is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. Amen. We can have a clap as we sit down, as we appreciate the Lord because of his doings. And this far, this good. We really thank the Lord that now we are again continuing our conference. And so I want to invite Luis to come and give us the policy belief. And I'm sure we are going to flow well. Right after Luis, we are going to have Desmore for the poem.
Praise God. Praise God this morning. My name is Luis, or rather Lewis, from those who came from the White Highlands that I came from. I grew up around here in a small village called Murengeti, which explains why I'm the only person in this room without a sweater or a cardigan. So, and I'm privileged and I'm very happy to be here, doing something which I can deem as service to God and service to humanity. Amidst us, as I can see, we have people who have walked the journey with us and who have been with us every single step of the way. And some of the things that we are being showcased here, even how we arrived at the 50 liters instead of any arbitrary number, are people who have contributed massively to this campaign. And some of them I can see sitting amidst us, which is something which I really want to thank them. This morning, I am going to present something that I helped develop, which is a policy brief, which we had intended to present to the powers that might be. However, I'm reminded of the authority of the church in our context. Because even me, if I was in their situation, maybe I may have fettered to show up and maybe chickened away. Because the church has a lot of authority in our context. It is only those amidst us who know and who have served in churches who understand what I'm talking about. Today, if one of our ordained reverends was to ask the PS to pray for him, he will kneel down for him to pray for him. So that is something that we need to understand. Even so, when you're dealing with advocacy, you need to understand that the church has a very pivotal role in ensuring that advocacy is done and is carried out in a way that is impactful to the society. So I don't know if the person who's controlling can move the slides. The Grape pledge policy brief of the 50 liters per day per person. Our mantra is that where water can flow, and cash flows where water cannot flow. Grape is a global reformed advocacy platform for engagement. It is a platform where the World Communion of Reformed Churches, developed with the Economic Policy Research Institute, mobilizes churches and their congregations as well as civil societies to advocate for economic and climate justice. In Kenya, Grape has chosen water. We come not as critics, but as partners, to stand alongside the communities which are most affected and to share the evidence that we have gathered and to help turn a constitutional promise into a daily reality by 2028. Our goal, as you've heard, is to ensure 50 liters of clean, safe water per person per day, or the cash to buy it, guaranteed to every Kenyan by 2028. As you've seen, some of our pivotal things in our campaign is that we are from local to global to local again. We also work alongside governments, not against them, because we understand that the right to water is a state's obligation, and our role is to support it, evidence it, and accompany it. EPRI also brings the aspect of theology as well as something Dr. Kevin said, it's a shared reality. And the guarantee would cost, and what it would cost Kenya. We agree that every Kenyan should receive 50 liters of clean, safe drinking water per person per day, unconditionally. And where the government cannot yet deliver the 50 liters directly, it provides an equivalent cash compensation so that the people can purchase their own water. Some of our signed members or organizations include the Presbyterian Church, the National Council of Churches in Kenya, the Reformed Churches of East Africa, alongside interfaith. As you can see among us, you have Imam, who is a good friend of mine. Good to see you, Imam. We are also here to raise awareness and to engage governments constructively, which is what we aimed at doing today, and to work alongside every stakeholder until the guarantee is real. Congregations already drill water, and for those who are ministers here, part and parcel why you're here is because we are seeing a situation in our country where we are having private solutions to public problems. Even what we deem as public transport is not really public transport. It's someone who invested in a metallic bus that transports people around. And just because you can afford private means to cater to your problems, that is not the way to go. And you find that most in our churches here, you have boreholes in your churches and your mosques. I'm sure almost 80% of churches and mosques have boreholes, supplying water. So it's a shared reality in our own reality. It's something we know. It's something you've seen in your own community. Were it not for that church, were it not for that mosque, were it not for that, there would be a lot of disaster. To understand what a scarce our country really is and how uneven shared, but maybe give you a small example. Where I come from, just right across, almost everyone has a swimming pool. Most of them have swimming pools, private swimming pools. And a few days ago, we were talking with Duke and Claudia, who are conveners. It doesn't make sense having a swimming pool in Limuru with this weather. It really doesn't make much arbitral sense. In Nairobi still as well. Nairobi is not a very warm place most of the time, most of the year. And those swimming pools are not used. So what is happening in Karen right now, a few years back, you only had to sink your borehole 100 meters or 120 meters. Right now, the residents who live there, for you to be able to sink a borehole, if at all you're going to be permitted to do so, you have to go more than 300 meters down, even 400 meters, which is also expensive. And if you think about it in our current context, in the times you're living now with AI and whatnot, if you go to the US, there is something that is happening, that they are building data centers all over, and they are massive investments. The issue with data centers is that data centers are competing with us for resources. In the sense of those data centers require a lot of fresh water to cool them down. So for instance, and they don't set them just anywhere. They'll set them up near aquifers. So in real sense, yes, we are advancing in AI, but we are not there to serve AI. AI is there to serve us, right? So in this context, you're finding there will be a competition of resources, especially water, with us and technology. In our own context, renewable freshwater available per person each year is also against the internationally recognized scarcity threshold of 1,000 cubic meters. 80% of Kenya's landmass is within arid and semi-arid zones, where the distance to water is measured in hours walked. We have had presentations here of a woman who was trampled by an elephant trying to go and secure water. if you see some of the data we have dealt with, and if you see some of the research we have dealt with, and hopefully that this information will be available for us, we'll be able to understand the gravity of the situation as it were. Thank you, sir. 41% of Kenya lacks access to even basic drinking water. This is according to UNICEF and WASREB in 2023. So what this means is that 21 million plus people who have no access to clean water also remain out of touch, out of reach, when most of this work is done by women and children. We have heard of women who have to walk long distances before school, and most of this is tasked to women to go and bring this water back. So we've seen where the right fails, the poorest are the ones who suffer. Let me put this to context. A 20-liter jerrycan, the same one you put on your water dispenser, or the one you carry, the yellow ones and whatnot. For a normal dry season, a water vendor will sell it for roughly 50 shillings. And when it is very dry, like you experienced in 2022, they will sell it for 80 shillings, almost 100 shillings. So let's put this into context. How much is the household income of the person who is buying that 20 liters of water? How much is he making to be able to sacrifice this amount of water for just amount of money for just 20 liters? I know 20 liters is not enough. You have to consider they have to clean their children, they have to clean their homes, they have to bathe, they have to cook. All this requires water. In Narok in 2022, the price of water rose as the price of a cow collapsed, as you've seen, from 30,000 to 200 shillings. Families sold their livestock and their assets to buy just water for the day. So scarcity turns right into a market, and the market challenges the poorest the most. So it is always important to know when you're talking from a point of privilege. Because my brothers and sisters, sometimes the thing that we cannot see the most is when we are talking from a point of privilege. So when you think about it, even those people in informal settlements, even buying this jerrycan for 20 liters, don't automatically assume that this 20 liters is clean and safe water. It is the same situation where you find, those of you with cars, you would not go take your car to be washed with that water. But this is the only water that is accessible to these people. Being in the legal field, I try to look at this from a legal perspective. There has been protection by the Constitution to ensure that we all have safe and drinking water. So we only fall short of implementation. So the government has said, yes, you're entitled to safe and clean drinking water. However, they don't specify the amount, and they do not really go deep into ensuring that you indeed have your access to water. So Article 43 of the Constitution confers the right to every person to clean and safe water in adequate quantities. It's a very ambiguous language, which is a justifiable economic and social right. The Water Act 2016 has devolved water services to counties and builds the institutional machinery for delivery and regulations, which is something which has strengthened the Water Users Association, as you've seen here. The WASREB, which is responsible for licensing, putting standards and oversight of water services providers with published performance data. All these things are under the office of the PS, legally speaking. And that's one of the reasons why we needed to engage one-on-one with him on this matter. We also have the Water Sector Trust Fund, which is a financial instrument directed at undeserved and marginalized area. We also have the master plan that was there, that was established in the year 2010, 2012, which is the master plan to Vision 2030 by the President. And as of late, I have it in good authority that it is now Vision 2060. We also have the bottom-up economic transformation and the SCR, which looks at agriculture on small and medium scale enterprises and also the universal service delivery, none of which stands without water and a binding treaty obligation. So we are also part and parcels as Kenya to other world treaties that ensure and hope and fight for people getting access to clean and safe water, as well as other rights. So we are not asking the government to adopt a new ambition. It's not really new. So when we find the government fettering to come and have engaging with us, it's not really something new. It is something which has been enshrined in the Constitution. And so we are just asking together to complete what Kenya already made its promises. So let's talk about the minimum water threshold gap. The right to water in our 2010 Constitution is, as I said, unambiguous in principle. It has never been operationalized as legally defined in the Constitution, measurably, your daily entitlement per person, and a right without a flaw that cannot be enforced, budgeted, or audited. So you see, number one, there is no enforceable standards. Citizens hold a right in law with no quantity attached to it. Nothing tells a county what compliance looks like, and nothing tells a household when its right has been breached. There's a legal maxim, we say, and it's very often like to throw it here and there. Say, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. So in this situation, you're seeing that the government does not really come with clean hands. So I think the obligation is now to us as organizations, as institutions, as churches, as leaders, to make them now look at this promise and making them sure that they're true to the promise. So there's also no compensation when delivery also fails. The cost of failure, whether financial, physical, and in hours worked, falls silently on households. Low-income families pay more for less, and women and girls absorb the largest share. I can tell you for a fact that if anyone in this country in the 21st century is still walking for kilometers to get water, I believe it is only fair for them to be compensated. I believe it's only right for them to be protected per our Constitution, as it says. So we're not asking for charity. You're not asking for sympathy for some people. No, these are shared reality. And in the day that we're living in, I think no compensation when delivery fails is a really sloppy line. And we as leaders, you as churches and mosques and all of us, we have a bone to chew with them. There's no place in isolation protection. Water is the most foundation of human needs. It sits almost entirely outside Kenya's social protection architecture, where food and income transfers are established instruments. Next year, we are expecting there to be shortage of maize. And in every situation where this happens, we find government zero-rating maize importation so that they can buy maize at, for cheap for distribution. I think the same also needs to be addressed to water, because I feel water is a more eminent need and a more serious need, more than maybe zero-rating maize, because everything starts and ends with water. One measurable guaranteed operational by 2028. Every Kenyan is guaranteed a minimum of 50 liters of clean and safe drinking water per person per day. Where the government cannot deliver the 50 liters directly, it provides an equivalent cash compensation calculated on the prevailing market rate, paid directly to the affected households. This guarantee is unconditional and should be operationalized by 2028. 50 liters per person, not per household, 50 liters per person. The unit of entitlement is the person, because the unit of the need is the person. 2, unconditional. No behavior condition, no application to fail. This is not an award, it is a right. 3, measurable by 2028. A number can be costed, budgeted, legislated, audited, and enforced, and a principle on its own cannot. So it would have been nice to have our leaders here with us, so that we can have and start this engagement and deliberate, and then we can know we're starting from somewhere. But from where we stand, we think 50 liters per person every day or an equivalent cash compensation stands just about right. If they had the right of reply, they could have said, maybe not make it 40, maybe don't make it 50, make it 65. Then that would be fine. But now, since we also gave them the right of reply, so we look for it. But we will not stop. We will continue knocking on those doors, because this is service to humanity. Delivery mechanism, one constitutional right. One, where it can flow. Where infrastructure reaches the household, the state delivers 50 liters of clean, safe water per person per day. The duty to extend that infrastructure never lapses. Now, cash compensation. Where it does not yet reach, the state transfers the market cost to those of those same 50 liters to the household, so the family can buy the water, which the Constitution already promises them. This is not charity, as I've said. It is a right. So, what is a roadmap to the 2028 guarantee? So here we are in 2026 August. This is a foundation. The Joint Commission on the Universal Water Access is established and gazetted. The Joint Costing Study is commissioned. Cabinet reaffirms the 50 entitlement and the cash mechanism as policy direction. 2, next year, costing, drafting, and budgeting. The feasibility study reports by February, the revised national water policy and the draft and the water amendment bill were finalized. The Treasury sets a dedicated budget line. Cabinet approves and then transmits. Carrying on the parliamentary passage, then you can go through the first reading, public participation, second and third readings, and finally we can have the presidential assent. Commencement. So we are targeting, if we have this engagement over the period of this year, so the commencement by 2028, when the act commences, households reached by infrastructure received the 50-liter guarantee per person directly. Households not yet reached also receive the cash compensation and until they are also able to access the water. So having a joint commission and the evidence that either side asserts. So we can have the joint commission, a proposal which can be chaired by the Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation, formalized by notice in the Kenyan Gazette as per law, with a published mandate and a fixed reporting deadline. Its task is the revised national water policy and the water draft, the amendment bill. The final legal drafting and the constitutional vetting remain as is proper with the Attorney General and the Kenya Law Reforms Commission. So you can see all these people that we intend to work with. They'll be very instrumental in us crossing over to the other side. So who gets to sit at the table? You have the Ministry of Water and Irrigation as chair, secretariat, the State Law Office, and whatnot. For Grape, we have the churches, including but not limited to the PCA, the RCA, civil societies and other signatories, the Muslim Association, and technical and economic advisors convened through EPRI. We also have a statement of intent that we also had come with, anticipating for the CS or the PS to come and sign. So here is what the statement of intent had included. One, we had a policy leadership in cabinet. We could champion a cabinet decision recognizing the 50-liter entitlement and the cash compensation mechanism. Two, we could have and establish a joint commission within 30 days of signing, also formalized in the Kenyan Gazette. Three, we could have commission on the joint costing as the Commission's first task, reporting by February next year, and work with the Treasury towards a dedicated budget line. 4, drafting and transmitting of the bill. Instruct the State Law Office and the Law Reform Commission to finalize on it, take it through Cabinet, and transmit to the National Assembly by 2027. 5, publish a delivery roadmap. So within 2026-2027 financial year, distinguishing areas served by direct delivery from areas served by cash compensation. 6, advocate in Parliament, and through every stage, because as you've seen, and finally, sharing accountability, because I think without accountability, it can be all null and void. So you can take part in multi-stakeholder frameworks, convened with Grape, that tracks and publicly reports the progress towards 2028. So with continuous reports, as you can see, that is one of the things that we intend to bring with us. I won't go through the Mangaso household, not paying 80 shillings for 20, because I'm sure we have already gone through that. But finally, as I conclude, I want to say I'm entirely grateful for all of us, and to all of us, especially our conveners. A lot of time, research, and a lot of dedication has gone throughout this. Finally, I want to thank SPU for this. I'm one of your biggest followers on X. You always have some banger tweets. That is commended. Thank you so much to our VC. It's been nice being in this crucible of information and purposefulness. Thank you so much. I also happened to sit down and listen to Dr. Kevin in Stellenbosch, where he did a very nice talk. So I'm also impressed by the kind of intellect that is being dispensed here. Thank you so much.
I think we can do a better clap to Reese. Thank you. Water is everything, everywhere. And that is the roadmap. And I'm sure now we know where we're going. And even though the government representative didn't come, we are sure that we have a roadmap. So we have a way to go. Someone keeps telling people that they are formless, they are rudderless, they are planless and agendaless. For us, we have all that. And I'm sure we are going to get somewhere with this. Now we want to invite Priscilla Lesmoret for a presentation, and we want again to welcome our SG, the PCA Secretary General, Reverend Dr. Waihenya. Karibu, and feel that you're in the right place among us. Karibu, Priscilla.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Priscilla Veseran Lesmore, and today I will be delivering a spoken word piece or poem. And before I start, the reason why I like poems is because I believe education is one step closer to progress, and this is my form of educating people through my poems. So the title is Beyond the Price Tag. Listen close to the child by the dry riverbed, tracing cracks in the earth where the cattle were fed. She holds up an empty cup waiting for rain while the market buys rivers to trade in her pain. For when liquid is priced like a luxury item, the poor pay the price while the corporate board buys them. Who will rise to confront what the market has made and demand that life's source isn't bartered or traded? Reformed by a faith that stands up for the weak, a global communion for justice will speak. For serving our God means we serve those in need, turning grassroots advocacy to policy and policy to deed. We must strive to drive for real engagement beyond prayer, to ensure that clean water is rightfully there. There is turning of tides on the structures of greed, putting people and rights over corporate need. No more walking for miles just to purchase a drop. It is time for the pricing of survival to stop. Look again at the child by the dry riverbed. No longer in silence, she raises her head. that same empty cup is now filled to the brim as the policy shifts and justice rolls in. For water is life, not a product to buy, and no child, woman, or man should suffer or die. They have challenged the markets that traded her pain and restored to the rivers their freedom again. Scripture calls us to care where the thirsty need drink, for in serving our neighbor, our faith is complete. We are called to step up, take a stand for the weak, and give voice to the people who struggle to speak. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priscilla. I think we can do a better clap, honestly. We are called for that. Thank you so much. We thank you. Before we get to the portion where Dr. Kevin is coming, we will now get to a presentation that will be done by what we had said, the Christian and the Muslim perspective, the right to water for all. And before we have the SG, Dr. Waihenya coming, we invite the Sheikh Mohammed Malik Kipsang from SUPKEM to come and do a presentation from the Muslim perspective on water. And then we'll have Reverend Dr. Waihenya coming after. Karibu, Sheikh.
Our respected guests that have been invited today, Vice Chancellor is not around, she left, and all protocol observed. My name is Kipsang Malik, Chief Imam, National Muslim Leaders Forum from Bungoma County. I was requested to come with a colleague from NAMLEF or SUPKEM, and I was able to invite my brother, Yusuf Nasser, from SUPKEM. So he's here. I am a Grape family member, and I can prove that by mentioning few names. I know Dr. Waihenya, Secretary General. We were together the other day when I was signing a commitment agreement that we are joining hands with Grape in this noble journey. I know my brother Lewis, who is here. I also know Benedine Kipruto, who is here. I also know Beatrice. And of course, Janet Nandwa Ongoli is the one who has been communicating through email. We are very grateful to be part of this journey because water is not a Christian issue, as my brother Reverend spoke about earlier. Water is for all of us, and no one can isolate himself for this matter. If you look at Quran 21, verse 30, it's called Suratul Anbiya. We normally don't say chapter, we say in Arabic. Suratul Anbiya, the chapter of prophets, verse 30, which is ayah. It goes like this. Allow me to say it in Arabic shortly so that you can also hear Arabic. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. It means like we created from every living thing water. It is water which created every living thing you see around. And I was happy to hear these two gentlemen who are talking about the CBS. What does it mean? Exactly. We can do the same. I was looking around for Dr. Kevin. I don't know if Dr. Kevin is around. He's the one. I've heard about you, but I've never seen you before. When I saw you in the beginning, I mistook you to a lawyer. But then I realized later you are actually a man of God. You are serving God. We're also serving God. I work with Interfaith, Interreligious Council with Kenya. So I've interacted a lot with my Christian brethren. I'm the vice chair, Bungoma County. The bishop of SEK is my great friend. The bishop of NCCK is my great friend. So we work together without looking at our differences. Yeah, because we are not actually differences. We fear each other because we don't know each other. But if we know each other better, we will not fear each other. We'll be just one thing. And that is what interfaith is all about. So we will develop the same document as we travel together to achieve our goals. Number two, I was looking at this recommendation made by the Grape of 50 liters per person per day or equivalent compensation where delivery is not feasible. And I was asking myself, because a Muslim, when he wakes up in the morning, you need to do full bath, which is called ghusl. Especially, it becomes obligatory if you had intimacy. So in the morning, we'll have to have a full bath, meaning all your body must be touched by water. Then you do what we call wudu. Wudu is ablution, of course, washing before prayers, which is washing your face, washing your hands, and washing your feet before prayer. And you do that 5 times a day. This is one of the reasons we've been inviting our Christian brothers to come to mosque and see what we do. In Jamia, we normally do it yearly. We invite Christian leadership, bishops, reverends, and any other Christian who is willing, even today. If somebody wants to go to the mosque, you can go there and observe. Go to Jamia and see how water is flowing there. We have adequate flow of water. At the same time, we use a lot of water. In fact, in Islam, extravagancy is prohibited. You are not supposed to use more than you need. So water is life, and that is obvious. You look at the Quran, you come to the Bible, the same thing. So I say to myself, my good family, which is Grape, suggested a very good idea and recommendation, but I still see it as a small quantity of water. But it's a very good thing so far. Let us achieve this, 50 liters, then we will campaign for more. Because if you talk of 50 liters, those are 2 20 liters jerrycans. In a family of a Muslim family, household, that can be used by one person. So if you talk of this, it's called, you did a study case of Mungiso. What's the name? Mungasio. Mungasio with his 80 members in his family, if they were Muslims, and we talk about 50 liters of water per person, then we are talking about how many liters of water? Yeah? But again, I am not looking down upon the wisdom of Grape. Grape had a very good wisdom behind 50 liters. But this is just my thinking. I'm just thinking aloud that when we achieve the goal we are looking for at the moment, we can again go for 100 liters because it is a right. Finally, when I hear speakers on national televisions, experts, lawyers speak good about Kenyan constitution, they say it is the best constitution in the world. It is one of the best constitutions in the world. And I tend to agree with them, and I don't know why, because I'm not an expert. But I think it's right, but I don't know how. Maybe a lawyer will explain to me better why Kenyan constitution is one of the best constitutions in Kenya, in the world. Now, if you talk of the articles of 41, D1, 43, 56, it is clear that a Kenyan is guaranteed access to clean and safe water. But now the issue is quantifiability. It's not measurable, and entitlement is not also clear. That's why we are in this campaign. I have read a lot about these write-ups and the articles we've been sharing. I am now fully with you because I understand almost everything about this policy, about the concept, about each and everything regarding this issue of water campaign. We are together. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We can do a better clap for him. And he asked me and remind me your name. You're doing good work. I didn't know I'm doing good work. My name is Kyogi Apollo, and I serve with PCEA Church. I think we can agree in principle that the church is saying 50, but Imam is saying we even need more than that. And I think that is a good conversation. So when you shall be going to see the PS and the CS, we must tag along with you, and you say that we need more. This is interfaith policies. Thank you so much for that. Now we want to invite the Reverend Dr. Robert Waihenya, who has been with us and is with us, and we are happy to have you here, Reverend. Please come and give your perspective on this very important matter of water. Give him a clap. Great man.
Thank you so much, Reverend Apollo, and all of us who are gathered here today so that we can be part of this great movement to advocate on matters water and how we can ensure, not us really, but the government plus us, to ensure that we have 50 liters waters per person or an equivalent compensation, because that is what it is. Kenya is funny, and that is us. We are funny because we talk about development, and every time we see not really cities, but let me just call them what they are, slums coming up. We also have estates coming up, but nobody thinks about water. Nobody. So we settle, and then once we settle, we asking ourselves, then what? Are we doing the same with the churches? Yes. Personally, I know the church which I come from, the Presbyterian Church of East Africa, PCA, where we have put up churches. We have about 6,800 churches in Kenya, but we have so many churches without any idea of water. Leave alone water, even in their design, they never even considered a tap. So that is a problem, because many times we've not thought about water. And I loved what the Imam, my friend, has said about 50 liters of water is not even enough for one person. I also loved what I found Lewis talking about. And by the way, Lewis is my firstborn. How he found myself in the Grape, I was not involved, but he's there anyway. So how he was able to articulate on the roadmap on how we are supposed to ensure that we have water. I believe the same case happens to our mosques. I've traveled along Kajiado, Kitengela Road, and I see so many mosques, And I'm very keen to know where is the water here. But I want to thank the Muslim community, because one of the issues the Muslim community are doing, wherever they are putting up a mosque, as Rewis said, they are able to put up a borehole and they supply water to those people in the neighborhood. So that is good. And as it was said, that is again a private solution to, you call it, to a public problem. So we need to ask ourselves, why are we talking about water? This is what the Bible says in John 4, verse 14, because Jesus himself talked to people and said, whoever drinks of water that I will give him will never be thirsty again. But before we get to that living water, physical water is very important. And I'm saddened when we've been talking with the government and we heard all indicators and confirmations that they are coming, so that we discuss this and they sign what we have, so that we walk the journey together. And then all of a sudden, because it was only yesterday, I was told that they are not coming. And it was like, oh, then how? I really don't understand. But we'll pursue. Dick will pursue this. And believe you me, from tomorrow, we'll pursue. And we'll get them. Because they cannot, this is not one area they are going to escape, no matter what. And now they still have another issue to explain, or we report them to the boss. Because they cannot be promising. We've organized. We need to have them on board. Again, it is about our livelihood. It is about our people we are talking about. So, and if they don't hear such presentations, if they don't understand what Grape is about and what we are talking about, water provision, then they will continue with their lackadaisical attitude and not doing what is necessary and acting from a point of ignorance. Water is important. And I just want to reiterate what was said, because from our perspective, both from a legal perspective, from religious perspective, from social perspective, from economic perspective, we are saying we cannot be able to live without water. Can we be able to evangelize without water? No, we can't. Can we be able to have good education without water? No, we can't. So water forms the foundation of everything, and it cannot be said better. So from our understanding and according to the words in the Bible, number one, we are saying that water is a basic right. It is not a luxury. And it should never be treated as so. Many times, the way we are conducting ourselves, we are looking at water as if it is a luxury. And that is why we have development which is not factoring issues about water. In fact, if I was, and it's unfortunate that the PS is not here, but we'll go to his office, don't worry. If we were to have a dialogue, we need to have a water discussion with every sector. For instance, those people who are doing development, these developers, real estate developments, we need to have a board whereby before they put up 200, 600 houses, we need to see tangibly how they are going to provide at least 50 liters per person per day. Because it doesn't make sense putting up 100 houses here and we call it development, and then the people there start, looking for water. Water is not there, and I think it doesn't make sense. We need to ensure that this issue is anchored within the policies of development. People need to understand that water is important. It is not a luxury, as I've said. It is a basic human right. And that is what the Constitution says. And that is what we need to push for within our institutions for them to sign to have that. Number two, we say that we cannot have meaningful growth without water. Revis has just told us about these data centers, which actually are consuming a lot of water for the systems to be cooled, and again, we cannot be able to develop unless we have those data centers. We also need to redefine what development is, because without clean water, the burden of medication is again very heavy. And you cannot be able to develop any nation with a community which is unhealthy. It cannot happen. Look at what is happening within the slums, where people are taking sewage water, very low, very dirty water. And as it was rightly said here, those people who are at the lowest standard within the community, who cannot afford water, they are still the ones who are burdened with sicknesses. We cannot afford, any organization cannot develop when 3/4 of your employees are sick and sickly. It cannot happen. A family cannot be able to prioritize anything else if at all the family is not healthy. This is common sense. But again, it seems like it has not sunk deep into our systems, that we don't care. And it is not within us. We are dealing with so many sicknesses, which is hampering our development. Our economic growth is slower because of lack of water. Look at it. How can we also feed our people if at all we don't have enough water? How can we? And when we don't feed our people, then development can never be acquired. So, issues like, if you go to, and this is something, I was posted to a place called Nyeri. Nyeri is, I don't know, near Mount Kenya, Wamunyoro. So when I was posted there, the place has got enough water. And something you think like it is very, obvious. The typhoid tablets which are sold in every chemist. And then I visited one of the chemists to look for typhoid tablets, and they told me, we don't stock that here. That is not a problem here because we have enough water. Let me tell you, go to any shop here, not even a chemist. Those tablets, those medications are there because of dirty water. So we need to understand the road, the medical road, which is on our people because of these the lack of water and the issue of lack of water and dirty water. So we have cholera, typhoid, and children are dying. So what are we doing? We need clean water. And this is where, again, the issue of the Ministry of Water connects with the Ministry of Health, because we must make them understand that we are connecting all these issues so that we can be able to help our community. Water is not there. So the other thing is for government to succeed, it cannot be out there, and the religious community is out there. There must be a partnership. No one can do this alone. And the ministry needs to hear this. The PS, the minister, they need to hear this, that we cannot afford to be separate. We must work together. So, the religious community is the one which is interacting with the people every day. And therefore, we need to form a collaboration. And this is not whether. It should happen. And if we want to succeed, we need to partner and to put up a very strong infrastructure whereby we'll be able to collaborate and to work together. Then, finally, so that we can be able to continue with the issues we have, we also need to understand that as we do this, we also have a responsibility of good water stewardship. Even us. Not just being provided with water, but water stewardship is important. Because again, and I laughed the Imam when he said that in Islam, excesses are not allowed. It is not allowed. We have a tendency of us being very poor stewards of water. Very poor, very bad. Because we also need to, in our advocacy, to ensure that we have proper recycling mechanisms of our water. In some countries, we see that they have different systems of drinking water, irrigation water, and other water uses. But look at us. One of the issues we don't know how to is to steward water. A lot of wastage, a lot of misuse of water. So, we also need to ensure that in our stewardship of water, we also come up with adequate basins, adequate ponds. For those who are in water, they know what I mean. And we also ensure that the rainwater is properly utilized. Because we cannot afford to have water raining here in Limuru. And without any effort, the water goes to the Indian Ocean. And then, within a week, if it doesn't rain, we are crying, no water. That is poor stewardship. We must ensure that we are also able, and we make deliberate effort and good education, we collaborate with the government so that we can steward our water properly. We are very poor at that. 2 months ago, I was in the US in the state of California. And there, they were telling me the last time we saw a drop of rain in this state was 3 years ago. 3 years ago. But the place is green. Every tree is watered. Every place is properly maintained. What is a miracle? It is a stewardship of water. For us, you see, even the mist we see outside is still water. So it comes. But we don't care. Even in the Chabi Desert, which is down here in Kenya, it still rains. But the problem is our stewardship. How are we using water? One of the most ignorant person I encountered while trying to talk about water is somebody whom I try to tell, kindly, not switching off, closing the tap. Close the tap after washing your hands. Make sure you close the tap. But he said, water is everywhere, so I don't need to close because water is everywhere. So it doesn't care. We also need to educate and to encourage our innovators and those people who are doing. We sponsored a guy to go to do water engineering in one of UK universities. And the feedback, he's assigned to one of our former General Assembly officers. And the guy in UK is saying, I now realize how we have wasted our resources through water. Because now, actually he was not allowed to come back. He was hired by the government of UK because they need him. But he was not even required here when he did his first engineering course. So we need also to collaborate with universities on this issue of water stewardship so that they are able to ensure that they give proper education to our people for us to be able to succeed on this issue of water. Let me just tell you something very simple we interact with every day. Look at our taps, the Kenyan taps. Do you know they are very archaic? There is even another one which I see and I feel like, are we serious? Which the one you place, then it is left flowing even after you have, and we think it is very modern, you leave it pouring water. You see, those are some of the issues we need to change. Because if you go to those countries, the kind of taps they have, it is sensor, sensors, whatever. It is a sensor whereby you only use the water you require. But for us, we do not know how to use water. We need to also have our technology advanced for good water stewardship. And I'm looking at a day where even I know in Kenya, I think it is an international day for the water, whereby we'll be engaging on such issues. Our government need to be serious. I wish the PS was here. We need to be serious. We need to be serious. Look at our car washes. That's what we call them, the car wash. How we waste water, and that water which is wasted, it is not even recycled so that it can be used again. And we waste a lot of water. Incidentally, You go to every town, we have more car washes than water distribution centers. Wasting a lot of water, no recycling, and nobody cares. Unfortunately, I'm also as guilty as charged because I also take my car to them. But if you go now to modern cities, the kind of car washes which are there, the water is recycled. They use some very little water, and it is recycled so that it is reused. That is not the case with us. Wasting a lot of water. Water stewardship is an issue. Even when somebody like Dr. Kevin here, when he goes to the bathroom in the morning, you call it what? Washing the whole body. Budu? Yeah? Guzi. When he goes for the gushi, he has got time to whistle, time to sing, time to meditate. So, all the time, poor stewardship. Poor stewardship. So, this is why we need to address this issue of water stewardship. And unfortunately, most of those people who are culprits of water misuse, sincerely, they don't know. They don't know. So this, again, information must be taken to every doorstep. Say doorstep or doorstep? Doorstep. It is stop or step? Whatever. Both. So, because you still stop at the door. So, that is, this information should be given to every household. I also attended a seminar, I think it was in Texas, about the water. And I was given something they call the Water Bible, which indicates all the issues about water globally. And they told me, or rather, we learned about all the aquifers and where water is and how water is sinking. And a bigger problem which is called water fracking, whereby they are fracking the aquifers so that the water can come out. Technology again, water stewardship. Because, again, we also need to ensure that the water we draw from the ground goes back to the ground. That is a science in other places of the world. Here, we're only drawing and putting more boreholes. The water level is sinking, and believe you me, as it was said by Professor Wangari Maathai, the third world will not be about anything else. It will be about water if we don't take care. And therefore, stewardship of water is important. Well, it is good to have all the drilling machines we see, but we also need, Grape, we also need to address the issue of this water down. Because if it gets depleted and we don't have a system like in the West where the water is returned back to the aquifers, we are destroying ourselves. Water stewardship. We need to bring our universities together, and we are happy because Dr. Kevin, we are here at the great university called St. Paul's University. Do you have a department of water research and whatever, and theology? I don't think so. I don't think so. This is key, and it is critical. So these are the issues we are going to engage the government, and these are the issues they must sign and ensure that we follow them to the letter for our economy to thrive, for us to be healthy, and for everything to stand. Now, we are doing whatever we are doing. But consider the damage, as I conclude, we have brought to the wildlife. They are not guilty, but they are suffering out of our own mismanagement of water. So, we were given a command by God that we conquer the world, but we are now fighting the world. May God help us, and may we be committed to this issue of water. If you are talking about, another economic opportunity, I'm sure the PS would have been here. If you are talking about that we have found oil here, he will, every ministry would be represented here because there is oil. But now, since we are talking about water and they don't realize what we are talking about, it is something to be pushed to the side. So we will see how to connect with them through whichever ways that we have. And thank you, Grape, for this, and the inter-religious committees for realizing what we are supposed to be. The children of Israel could not have reached the promised land if they did not get water. And they had to cry, and they told Moses, give us water, else we die in the wilderness. We'll also not get to our destination, whether economic, whether whatever, if at all we don't have water. We are not going to get to Singapore without water. That is what Bishop is reminding me. So we need water, and clean water. Thank you so much, and may God be with us as we continue to look into this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dr. Waihenya. I think that was very profound, and thank you so much. If all of us are keen, something is coming again. It's something Professor Mombo mentioned in the morning about the Third World War. Do you remember that? Can you remember that? And then again, the Reverend Dr. Waihenya has just mentioned that. I have listened very carefully and keenly when, Dr. Ali, you were talking about your presentation. And I can deduce that you have brought us the twofold, one to the government and the other four fingers to ourselves, especially on the issue of stewardship. I'm thinking, seated here, what if all the churches, all the mosques, all of us, we can take it like we like commemorate the days that the government or the world sends to us. They're not just there for the sake of being there. Like when we talk about water, we disseminate this information from the top because we are saying it is from the local, global, local. Like we have it done down here. It will make a lot of sense. So I think it's a call to all of us. As we also point to the government, we also reflect on how can we, even the least in the community, come on board and do this, what we are calling advocacy. Remember, when we lack water, I bet, I don't know, but I bet that our leaders, the government officials, to them, they have a lot of water. I don't think their taps line, off. I think they have. So when we say we don't have, it is us who are suffering down here. And therefore, we need to talk about water harvesting, good stewardship, when you are brushing your teeth, when you are doing all that, it is of paramount importance. Now, we want to get to another, season. And this will be very engaging when we have some panelists here. But before we do that, I want you to have a minute, and please be obedient, because, God says obedience is better than sacrifice. You sacrifice to be here, but you can also go another notch. Like, you have a neighbor you're seated with. Now, can you tell them what you've learned this far? What is your take home? If you are told, you are given this microphone to come and maybe say, before these cameras and say what you have learned and the call and all that. Because you are saying it is us, we are going as ambassadors. Maybe you can have a conversation with your neighbor. Feel free to speak in any language, sign language, water language, in whatever language. As we ask Luis, Dennis, and ourselves, Grape, we come and present ourselves here. Yeah, seats. We having a conversation now.
Imagine waking up every day, excited to learn in a place that truly feels like home. At St. Paul's University, we don't just teach, we transform futures. With advanced technology, smart classrooms, you'll master real-world skills employers fight for. Choose from our outstanding schools: business and leadership, health sciences, communication and computer studies, education and social sciences, and the School of Theology, all delivered with excellence and inspiration. Picture vibrant student life with friendships, clubs, sports and spiritual growth across our beautiful campuses in Limuru, Nairobi, Nakuru, and the virtual campus, as well as our TVET Institute. This is where leaders are built. This is where your success story begins. Are you ready to join the University of Choice? The September intake is now open. Visit www.spu.ac.ke or call our toll-free number 080-072-3000. St. Paul's University, the University of Choice.
Welcome to a captivating journey through the vibrant world of St. Paul's University, a place where traditions meet innovation and knowledge finds its voice. In this documentary, we'll explore the unique features that set St. Paul's University apart. But first, take a moment to immerse yourself with the breathtaking natural beauty of our country, Kenya. From the vast landscapes and diverse cultures, St. Paul's University is nestled in a setting that reflects the truest essence of our nation. Only a few kilometers from Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, St. Paul's University has a geographical advantage that attracts both local and international students. But beyond the stunning sceneries lies the beating heart of St. Paul's University. Here, intellectual exploration thrives and our campuses become hives of innovation and growth. Technology and youth are driving forces for change. And at St. Paul's University, we have made it our mission to embrace the global theme as we commit to academic excellence and spiritual formation. Our commitment to the e-learning and the blended learning has caught the attention of international students seeking for quality education. Programs like our PhD in Development Studies, Theology and Business have attracted students across Africa.
The GS, the General Secretary of the Reformed Church of East Africa. To my right, immediate right, we have Wayne Kiplimo. He is the chairperson of Baringo Water Resource Users Association. Karibu sana Bwana Wayne. And then to my left, and I'll ask for one more mic maybe, we have with us my friend, Brian Omenyi. We were with him in those early days of coming up with the idea or issue of water. So Brian Omenyi is joining us, and then we have Dr. Tinashe Gambo from the All African Conference of Churches, and he works on the Climate Justice Program. I think the microphone needs some water. And then my far left, we have the Reverend Beatrice Ruara, one of the Grape cohort members. So I think we will begin with Brian. We've had a lot of conversations around water planning, issues of rainfall. You know, we have floods in one season or in 1 week. We have droughts the other week. What does this mean in terms of practice for water access? You are coming from the civil society space. How are you looking at this conversation from that point, especially when we are talking about water access in the years ahead. The Grape advocacy campaign is saying 50 liters of clean and safe drinking water per person per day. What does this mean from the eye of the civil society?
Thank you so much, Dr. for the question. Happy to see you all. Good afternoon. Yes, as Dr. mentioned, my name is Brian Omenyi. I was among the first members of the Grape program, so being here today, it's exciting to see that an initiative we started 4 years ago has grown to a conversation, a nationwide conversation that has brought in the church and that has brought in the church, civil society, government, and different stakeholders so that we can be able to discuss. A lot has been said. A lot of wisdom has been shared since morning around the importance of water. And I think the angle I can bring around is what we're experiencing. The reality is climate change is here with us. And for a long time, people used to hear climate change as a jargon, as a technical term. But when we relate it to the different day-to-day challenges you're facing, then you'll realize it's actually here with us. So we are seeing unpredictable weather patterns, the change in weather patterns, and what that means to, for instance, a smallholder farmer in Baringo, for instance. I think Baringo is the famous county today because in the morning, almost everybody was coming from Baringo. So what does that mean to the smallholder farmer in Baringo who relies on the rain for them to harvest? And I think for us, we need to look at beyond water access as the end to itself, because beyond the access to water, there is more to it. And the reverse is also the same. The lack of access to water is also not the end to itself. There is more beyond lack of access. So to the smallholder farmer, it's not just about rain failing, but it's about their livelihood. It's about them being able to have the capacity to support their children, to pay school fees, to go to school, to pay for medical bills. For a pastoralist in Marsabit, you know, when the drought comes, wipes their entire cattle, camels, it's their livelihood. When a child has to choose whether to go to school or to go and help their mother to fetch water, we are disturbing and affecting the future of this child. When sadly, a woman has to trade in, but this is something that has actually happened. People are trading in their dignity for water access. And it doesn't have to sink that low. Somebody doesn't have to pay with the bodies to be able to access water because people are pushed to such limits. And therefore, this initiative is really very important, and it's timely that we need to discuss it because the situation is not going to get better. With a changing climate, the disaster is going to get worse. Right now, we are talking about El Nino coming in the next month or two. The Reverend has mentioned about infrastructure. Realistically, if you look around, the government is not even talking much about it, okay? It's not making the right infrastructural preparedness and systems to help citizens cope. Because I think a couple of months ago when we had the floods in Nairobi, we all saw the kind of impact it had. It not only affected communities, but it destroyed, you know, the capacity of people to be able to access clean water, because when it's flooding, it also affects, yes, the water will be there, but it affects even the quality of the water that is accessible, because if the flood water is mixed with sewage, then it's no longer suitable for use. So on one hand, and I think, yeah, if the government was here, how does the government also ensure that we have the right infrastructure? Because climate change with its manifestation, if we don't have the infrastructure to be able to address it, then it's going to be a disaster. So we have a planning challenge of managing excess water and also managing lack of it. As Reverend mentioned, like in the developed countries, they can go for years without water because they have set up the infrastructure to be able to respond and to be able to adapt to that. And I think we have the capacity. It starts also with an individual, but it's also a systemic thing. So how do we create the structures that will help us to plan better? So even as we engage with the government, both at the national and the counties, because some of these functions have been devolved. So let's also get down to the counties and be able to speak to them so that we can be able to address this. I also, on my part-time, volunteer and part of a movement we call Africa Water Ambassadors. And I see one of my peers is here, Kevin. And we have slogans. One of them we say, water doesn't come from the tap. Water comes from a source. And it's a mindset change. Because the way he said, the guy who was opening the tap and the water was running, to him the water is coming from the tap. They don't remember that water has traveled from, like the river Reverend was, Gosheroria, where they mentioned. The water has come from somewhere, and there is a forest that had to be conserved for that water to be stored. There is an underground aquifer that needs to be protected. So it's a whole chain that we need to look at, and not just a single aspect of it. So there is a lot we can do, and I think this program is very important and it's come at a timely manner when we are actually seeing the challenges manifesting on a day-to-day basis, and if we are able to address it, then we are going to make some change.
Thank you so much, Bwana Umenyi, for giving us clarity on some of the challenges that we are facing. I like that line, that water does not come from the tap, but comes from a source, or water has a source. And I know that before we bring the church to just a faith perspective, we can also hear again from another voice in the civil society. Brian has given us a perspective around the challenges. So I wanted to move to this question in terms of practice, because Grape is saying 50 liters of clean and safe drinking water per person per day. If there's nothing else you remember from our talk today, that's what Grape is advocating for. In Kenya, we say the situation on ground, or pale kwa ground. What does this look like? Bwana Kiplimo, you work as a chair of the Water Resource Users Association. What would need to change? There's conversation around planning, financing, regulation, accountability. What would need to change along these lines for people to have this access to 50 liters of clean and safe drinking water?
Okay, thank you. As you've heard from the moderator, my name is Hawaiian Kiplimo Kemei. I come from Baringo County. And I must say, I've been in this space for quite some time. And the reason why even these voices of the community was brought on board was the issue of conflicts over the resources. And around 2002, around Mount Kenya, there was a lot of fights on water uses, mainly Murang'a, Nyeri, Sagana, on issues of different water users, because we have someone who's doing livestock, there's another one who's doing irrigation, there's another one who's doing that. By around 2005 towards 2008, the issue of water resources became problematic and escalating because of climate change. And thus now there was this issues of review of the water policies. So the Water Act 202 was no longer working in terms of policies and addressing the issue that was intended to do. So it came up now with what you call WDCs, that is Water Development Circles, and they form what you call Water Resource Users Association. And by around 2009, 2010, there were quite a number of what we call water resources that has been developed. But now, people didn't pick the concept in the right way. Most of the government entities looked at it as an avenue of getting and making money. They didn't pick the concept very well. So at that time, I think you mentioned something about Water Sector Trust Fund, being a government entity that were given to fundraise on behalf of this water association. They gave them what you call seed money. So they came, but they never trained the community. As I agree with the Reverend Wainya that we need governance issues and training, people to understand why was this model developed. And I remember at that time, I was very young. I think I was only 25. And most of these people who were being brought on board on Water Association were civil servants who had retired from teaching, from serving the public. So they were asking me, you as a young man, why are you coming in to do this? And I think mine was a calling. It's a passion that I had. My sister talking about how the stories being told as growing as a young man. So basically what I can say, in Water Act 2012, there was a review of all these policies. And by around, they developed what we call sub-catchment management plan. It's like a strategic plan that looks into how communities can contribute on these resources. But now, they were given this, developing this document, as you said, some of the speakers spoke that as a country, we are good in developing documents, but implementing this document become a whole other issue. So between 2002 to around 2012, there was quite a number of sub-catchment management plans that were developed between an agreement, water resource associations, and also Water Sector Trust Fund and Water Resource Authority. By then it used to be called Water Resource Management Authority. It's WARMA. But now in 2016, the policy became now rendered not serving the purpose. In 2016 it was reviewed. Now we are using the Water Act 2016, which is currently working. So after now formation of the Act, there were no regulations. So implementing the Act again became a bit difficult. So it's like we were climbing a tree from up, coming downwards. So all those other documents that we had developed was not working for community to access this clean water. So now they have started now forming what you call water regulations. 2018, it never worked. 2019, COVID kicked in. Now the demand of water became something else as a medicine to the country. Now they had a listening ear to develop this regulation well and listen to what we were saying as a community. Because the only medicine for COVID-19 was to make sure you wash your hands, hygiene and sanitation. That's now the entry point. As water associations, as a communities, we got a chance to speak with the government. And by the time now we are entering 2012, 2013, the new constitution had started taking effect. Now we are grappling with two things, the transition between now the old constitution and new devolution dispensation. So we're struggling now to see, will water be devolved completely or it will be under the national government? So there was that commission, Kinuthia Mwangi, for transition. So they ended up now segregating government entities into units. Now, water was not fully devolved. So the issue of water service provisions, where we have water companies, you saw the WASREB now that you're displaying here. Now they are building water companies, and also there's something called UAS, Water Users Associations, under WASREB. So this we're trying to convert water projects into an alternative of water service provision. Because sometimes, as you register water companies, as they develop their networks of distribution of access of clean water, combining infrastructure. So you find the networks, because of the topography, they are not able to reach each and every citizen. So it brings issues of seclusion and removing inclusion. So the issue of access of water now become more expensive. Now we go to issues of using hydropower, which you look at the income of each and every household. Will you pay for water, bills for pumping water, or you buy meals? So you see now some of the households start competing. So they're trying to convert these small water projects into water service provision companies. But along the way, it was not sustainable, because you are bringing people, you're not training them and giving them capacity on governance, and it became a bit difficult to implement. So now, when you look at what Grape is doing now, and I think there's a missing link here, as much as we push the national government, and I agree with Reverend that these people should be here, they could have been here, so that we talk and agree or disagree on some points. Because one, when you ask them now on issues of water provision, they'll tell you there's a function of county governments. And then now it's back and forth. So basically, as we move forward with that roadmap, we need to bring the Council of Governors into this conversation, because they are the one who are putting levies on water. And it's becoming very difficult for other communities to raise that money, because I can give a case study from where I come from. I come from Baringo. Baringo is a difficult county in a way that the topography keep on changing. We have almost 20% which is an island, and 80% is arid and desert. If you go to the lower part, like now, if you are not able to get it right from the source, you'll never get it right at the tap for quality. Because it came to my surprise, because in one of the springs, which is in the island, we picked one of the springs, which is in the island, and one in the arid areas. And we decided just to do a sample test of quality. To my surprise, the results came that the manganese level of that water was very high, to an extent that is not consumable for humans, according to World Health Organization standards. And I can imagine that spring, one of them, has been serving a population for the last 40 years. So you can imagine the health issues that these people have been going through. So as a Rua, where I come from, I told my committee, we will not protect these springs. What we do, we want to task these donors and government entities that as we develop the aspects of spring protection, let's realign the component of a simple technology on issues of clean treatment of water, whereby, where I come from, sometimes people see the sun differently, but personally I see as an alternative, when you use small technologies, we can clean that water and communities can access clean and quality water. And now currently, we are pushing our government, the devolved government, and we had a conversation on, I think on 28th last month, that they need, as much as they want to collect what we call permit levies, we need them to plow back that money for distribution of this water to the less fortunate households which are not able to afford what clean and quality water. So again, as we move forward in terms of policies, government has quite a number of government agencies. To me, either should be collapsed or to become departments, because we have Water Harvesting Authority, we have WARMA, we have Water Sector Trust Fund. Also they're coming up, another one is called Compact. I think Kenya Water Compact, which is anchored at the National Water and Sanitation Investment Plan. This is a treaty which was signed this April this year. The Minister of Finance, Honorable Mbadi, has commitment with World Bank that they'll finance issues of accessibility of clean water to the population by, I think, 2030. As much as they've shifted to 2060, we should just fix our mind to 2030 and see what we'll have achieved before we move to 2060. Because to me, on my thinking, we should just first finish what we started, and then we see, as we start that public participation across all the 47 counties, I call upon this team, let's question and assess and evaluate what have we achieved for Vision 2030 before we move to the next level. And last, as I finish, I had a privilege to be in China last month, in the month of June. People, change begin from me. And that change is what we call mindset. How do we think about others? Do we serve priority? Because one thing I realized with that country is a country of around 1.4 billion population. And they experience extremes of weather. As I think God is very kind to Africa, and especially Kenya. If you were in those countries with those extremes, all of us could be deemed extinct. But God has mercy on us and gave us this country to be where we are. And as I finish, what I saw in that country, they invest on so much on research and also what you call academy, because each and every section of the economy, they train. In fact, they have counties, they have province, and the politicians of that country, each and every politician contribute money for young people and professionals from those communities to go and study. There's a competition every year, and the first 300, they are given full scholarship to come and serve their country. And they've also translated each and every item to their own language. So anyone in Beijing city and anyone who is in Fujian city or Shenzhen city in the rural part, they speak the same language and they understand what the country is doing. And interesting enough, we are just a difference of 10 years since independence as a country. So as a country, we have a duty and responsibility, mindset and behavior change. And that is me, before I point the finger to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bwana Kiplimo for giving us that context. Water access, I've had issues of sanitation, issues of health, streamlining governance, where there are so many fragmented ways in which the government is dealing with the issue. You talk about mindset change, about training in a sustainable way for our communities. I like also the point of research, of course, because that is a docket I have here in the university. And actually, you know, Kenya mandates institutions to set aside 2% of their income to do research. But you're right, where we see a lot of technological development, even in those countries, a lot of money set aside, whether it's Switzerland or South Africa, etc., a lot of money set aside to research because numbers do not lie. So even in the next 6 months, tunaweza kutenga na kutengua, but with good numbers that will guide us on the conversation of water. Now, I like also the fact that these wise men were asking you, what are you doing as a young person? And you said, it is a calling. It is a calling. That is language that we like to use this part of the university in the School of Theology, and it reminds us of the role of the church. I want to bring in Reverend Dr. Luca Arico. The role of the church in terms of mobilizing, the role of the church in terms of dignity. We had stewardship. What is the role of the church when it comes to mobilizing and to stewardship? And you can also bring in an interfaith perspective, if you can.
Thank you, Dr. Kevin, and everyone, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm glad to be here and to be part of this conversation that is very critical. For the starters, I come from Turkana. I think Turkana in terms of water is worse than Baringo. And therefore, water is really a very important matter for us. Although I live in Uasin Gishu, it is two contrasts. In Uasin Gishu, we have water. In Turkana, we fight to get water. And one of the causes of conflict that has been perpetual is because of water. It is said that we who came from Turkana to Kenya, we came to look for water. So my parents moved out of Turkana because there was no water, and they came to Kenya, and we are having water. But now we are going back because we realize we have a lot of water in Turkana, and we want to make your research, make use of your research. However, let me just say that the church and the interfaith is one of the most largest, it's actually the largest organizations in the world and in the country. If you put together what the church, the interfaith, and the civil society can do, it is much more than what a government can do. And therefore, and also it goes with very important values. The church and the interfaith and the civil society, they are more trusted if you compare them with the government. And our presence at the grassroots gives us even more leverage in society. And we have the moral authority. We can call out on people. We can call out on government. And we are more organized with good structures and also ability to mobilize people across structures. If you look at the church, that's where you get everybody. You go to any church, whether, just look at any church, you'll find everybody. You look at any faith, the Muslim faith, except probably the Hindus. Even the Hindus now are moving out to get other communities into there. Unlike in government, where now we are trading with the shares and regions and so on and so forth and months. And the second thing that we want to talk about is probably the main thing that in 2010 we proclamated a constitution that has freedoms and guarantees. And one of them is in Article 43, Section 1, talks about the right of every Kenyan or every person to have clean, safe, and adequate quantities of water. That is not a request, that's not something to be put in a plan, that is something that needs to be provided for Kenyans. And we did pass the constitution I voted for it myself. I don't know whether you did, but that's what we said. One of the many things that we need water. And I think this is very critical for us as a church. So for us as a faith-based community, ours is to ask, is to remind the government that it is their obligation to make water accessible to every Kenyan as a matter of justice, dignity, and as a matter of constitutional obligation. So it's not a request, not a begging. It's just to remind them that they have to do that. So what do we do as a church? As a church and faith communities, one is to speak with a prophetic voice and a united community. You know, one of the things that has given the government a lot of energy is because the church and the faith communities, we speak with the separate voices. We need to unite behind this idea, this issue about water, and speak as one community. Because we have the numbers, because now they talk about numbers. If they talk about numbers, we have the numbers. They don't have, we have the numbers. And we are also in the government, so we have everything. We have the government and we have the numbers, and therefore we can make this thing happen. So let us speak in one voice. Number two, as faith communities, we must make water justice part of our preaching and discipleship. I know we are very busy trying to establish churches everywhere. We are struggling. The Reformed Church is trying to come and put churches in central province here. I see my brother Waihenya is trying to put churches in Turkana and so on. Let us put that building of churches aside and make water justice and discipleship a matter of priority. If you have people who have water, you don't have to preach a lot. You just come and say, nipe maji ninywe, na wataokoka haraka. But if they don't have water, you'll have a lot of work to do. So it is our obligations as churches and faith communities. Let us reprioritize. Let us look at what is God calling us. Look at the longest, somebody talked about that, John chapter 4. The longest conversation in the Gospels was the conversation around water between Jesus and the Samaritan woman. That was the longest conversation. Hiyo ingine yote okoka, batizwa, and inaisha. But this one, it was a very long one. It took the entire afternoon. So it is important for us to really think about water and make water discipleship and water justice a very important conversation for us. If we want to avoid conflict in society, we must really bring the water issue into the fore. And there are a lot, and I am happy that Grape has already come up with Bible guides on water. Water is not politics. We should separate water from politics. It is an expression of our commitment to the dignity of every human being. We must see it as an expression of dignity. Look at people without water. They are really indignified. In the morning, we were told by DVC that when he goes to Northeastern, children stand along the roads begging for water. And that's what I see every time I go to Turkana. People walk, and I carry water with the bottles. But how long would we do that? And we have churches, we have civil society, we have all of us, we are there. Why are we not pushing our governments to be able to do that? The third thing that I think we should do as a church and interfaith is also to establish water justice platforms that we can exchange views and ideas and work out our works together. I'm happy with what, for example, NCCK is doing in parts of Turkana and Ukambani. They are establishing boreholes. But again, these boreholes must also be sustainable. We must look at the sources of those waters and ensure that this water is sustainable and available. And as we push the government, we must also show how we are responsible ourselves in the way we deal with this matter. And then the fourth thing, we must take this conversation beyond the boardrooms of Nairobi. I'm happy, SG, and you others who are in Nairobi, you will take it to the boardroom in the CS office and the PS and bring it to us at the grassroots. Uko kwa ground, we will handle it together. So let us take the conversation out. Let us make it an issue for everyone. Let everyone be involved. Let's make the Sunday school child understand the need for that water. Let us tell them why they need to use that water, prefer in a nice way. This is the best time now to even come out, because these politicians are running around. This is the time to tell them, brothers, you want our vote. We can only assure you of our vote if you can assure us of water and start showing us that you are going to prepare a bill and take it in Parliament. I think even as a church, we must push our politicians, particularly those who are associated with our faith communities, to show us a bill that they are going to take to Parliament to be passed for passing. Then as I conclude, let us mobilize our citizens and our congregations, and the SG has talked very ably about stewardship. I think the stewardship of water is a very, very critical matter, and I think we must rethink, re-engineer the way we use water, from fetching water from the river all the way to use water in our houses and so on. I see people distributing water in bottles, and people take just a quarter of that water and they throw that water with the bottle and everything. You know, we must also be responsible to God. And by the way, anything that is ungodly is sin. So msidhani dhambi kubwa ni usharati na corruption. Even when you misuse God's resources, you are already sinning. And I don't want to say that you are a candidate for hell, but I'm just advising that it is something that we must, all of us, take it as a serious thing as Christians and also as other faith communities. Finally, let us prioritize also those who are vulnerable in our societies, the poor in our communities, because we saw the economics of water here in the morning, that those who suffer most, who pay the highest cost of water, are the poor. The rich don't pay a lot. They can collect their water and they treat it, but the poor pay higher prices and they pay the highest cost, and their dignity is in line because of lack of water. So one of my calling as my closing remark is to say, let us take this matter so seriously to our hearts, just the way we take our salvation so seriously. Thank you.
Makofi for the GS. Thank you so much, GS. We have just two more panelists to hear their voices. So for those who are joining us online, feel free to ask your questions or post their comments, and those who are here, we will have a chance to also hear from you. So please prepare your thoughts and your questions. I see time is far too gone, so we can finish with the church, and then we come to the ecumenical or regional perspective. So, Reverend Beatrice Rara, I see that you wear very many hats. Many. So looking at this conversation from your many hats in the ministry of the church that is serving in a context of the society, not just taking people to heaven, but bringing the little heaven down here in the form of water. We're saying it is a process. 50 liters of water per person per day, or an equal cash compensation by 2028. That's a process. From your perspective, what would you like to see from the government?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kevin. And for me, I would start from the known. Coming into theology, I was in the field of BSc Statistics and Programming, and we were taught that a problem, for you to solve a problem, you need to quantify, you need to see the gap, where is the gap? And looking at the gap, Grape saw the gap in the Kenyan Constitution. The Kenyan Constitution recognizes access to clean and safe water, but it doesn't quantify how much. And I believe that's the gap, because how will you measure or how will you budget for something that you have not quantified? How will you be held accountable for something that you've not quantified? So it's very specific that our ask first to the government, because it's not a privilege, it's a right. And they should provide clean and safe water to people. And not only that, each person should have at least 50 liters of water each day. And as you've mentioned, it's a process. So for them, the government, we need them first to define these 50 liters maximum, or no, minimum clearly. We need them to define it, to buy into this idea that we cannot be able to hold them accountable if we don't have quantity. And with that, then we should have joint commission on universal water access. Now this is where key stakeholders come in. I heard Reverend Dr. Lucas say that churches have numbers, churches have the government, and I also had my brother say how they are able to reach the grassroots communities, even teaching people on how to change mindsets. So I believe when we come together and have this conversation, being specific that this is our goal, at least 50 liters of clean and safe water for every Kenyan each day, then we will be able to move to the next step of finding out the cost, because it is either water or cash compensation, so money has to come in. And not the cost and the infrastructure. Now that is the piping, what he was saying, how do we make this water reach to the people from the sources, or where we are getting the water, how do we make this water reach the people? And then now, if we are not able to provide the water, as now the government, if the government is not able to provide this water, then have equal cash compensation. And then the next, now I'm trying to define this process in a summary because time is not on our side. And then the policies, because they are there, we have heard how Kenyans, we are so good at making policies that we do not follow. We need commitment. And that is where we needed them to sign a pledge that we will work together, because this is not a me problem, it's not a you problem. And I don't want to come back to what our previous speaker said, but we need to solve this problem together because it's affecting us all. And to summarize it, I would say that we're asking the government not just to promise water, as tunatenga 6 months, 6 months. We don't want that promise. We want to we want to see action. We want to see them implementing this, because it's not a privilege, it's a right. And this a tagline that I keep on saying, that there's no green without a blue. So sometimes we look at agriculture, we look at how we will bring food to people, but how will we achieve that without water? So it is the government to come on board and implement this, because it is our right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. There's no green without blue. Thank you so much. And the Makofis are also well appreciated. So far, the conversation is looking at the Kenyan context. Our last speaker does a lot of work when it comes to climate justice. And here at St. Paul's, because we look at life from a diverse perspective, from the theological perspective, we look at life from an ecumenical perspective, because we believe that there are strengths that we can learn from one another when it comes to our faith traditions, and even those beyond the Christian faith. We have, for example, a Center of Islam, Christian-Muslim relations here at St. Paul's University. But also we have the different schools, because we are saying water justice is not an issue, it's not just an economic issue. We saw that today. It's not just a legal issue. It's not just a theological issue. It is an issue that affects all of life. And even in this room, we have representation from different disciplines and different knowledge bases. But also looking at this, Dr. Tinashe Gumbo, from the AACC perspective, which brings together churches not just here in Kenya, but also around Africa. When we think about the ecumenical movement, how can the ecumenical movement participate in this conversation? How can it also link up to the other African countries, the African Union, for example? How are you looking at this from an ecumenical perspective?
Thank you, Doc. Yeah, my name is Tinashe Gumbo, coming from the All Africa Conference of Churches. But for the purpose of this particular conversation, and also for the purpose of our relationship with Grape, I want to be associated more with the network which we coordinate, which is called the Africa Faith Actors Network for Climate Justice. And we are proud as a network that Grape has become part and parcel of the network. And it has actually brought in the water justice component, because for us, it has been mainly the climate justice component, but with the coming in of Grape, we are now also beginning to amplify the issues of the water justice. So I've been listening to the previous speakers, and I've actually noted that indeed water, there is no question, it is actually a justice issue. It is also a rights issue. And indeed, I also tried to peruse through some critical players, the United Nations, the African Union. If you go to the African Union's theme for 2026, it actually focuses on water. And then I also tried to look at the various constitutions, 2, 3, 4 constitutions, including the Kenyan one. I have also realized that it is a constitutional matter. Therefore, it also confirms its justiceness in the conversation. However, I've realized, particularly in the constitution issue, because even my sister here talked about the gaps that she picked from the Kenyan issue. Coming from Zimbabwe, I also realized that in our constitution, section 77, it is regarded as a critical right in that constitution. However, there is a clawback clause which actually takes what it has actually been, it has given us. For example, it then emphasizes to say if even though it is a right issue, the government is expected to make sure that we enjoy that right. However, that will depend on the availability of resources. Then you can see now already it has been taken away, the right has been taken away. So it is a gap which I am seeing in Kenya, in Zimbabwe, and many other countries. So that is actually something that we also need to focus on. Then listening to all the speakers again, it is clear that when we are talking about water, it is all about its availability, its accessibility, affordability, and also usability. And if you look at all those, you can easily understand the various injustices regarding water. And my argument or my presentation, I want to challenge you to think about water issues as not merely a water justice matter, but something which goes beyond that. So I'm going to list 1 or 2 or 3 injustices that are related to water, and I want you to think about all those when you are engaging in the advocacy around water justice. For example, if you look at the issue of debt in Africa, it has actually affected the affordability, the availability, and the accessibility of water, because our governments are forced to be servicing the huge debts which the continent has actually incurred at the expense of provision of water. And that is why when you come to them to say, but the constitution says you need to bring water to me, they say we don't have resources because we are servicing the debt. And this is the case even for Kenya, it is the case for Zimbabwe, and is the case for Ghana and any other country. So the debt justice matter cannot be detached from the conversations around water justices. Then the issue of tax justice. we always argue at ACC to say Africa is very rich. It has got all it wants or it needs to address any problem that is facing its citizens. It has got resources. It has got even the water that we are discussing here. But you find out that our people are not accessing that. So what is the problem? Then the problem is about how we manage, how we govern these resources. Hence the issue of tax justice or tax injustices, which is related to water justice. If our resources were being managed properly, our people were going to have water without any problem. The clean water, all the resources that are required to clean it, to provide it to the people. But because our resources are not being managed properly, companies come here, they mine our resources, they remove or they live with the resources illicitly. At the end of the day, our governments do not have the resources to supply the water which is required. So tax justice issues is also manifesting when we are discussing water issues. Related to that, there is the issue of who actually controls our resources, even the water itself. We have seen the private players now controlling our water. Despite the fact that we have our water, it is being controlled by others. I will give an example of Lesotho. Lesotho has got a lot of water, but the people are not accessing it. It is even servicing the people in South Africa, the industries in South Africa. So the private players are actually focused on profit. They are not worried about whether this is a right in your captured in your constitution or not. And even where I come from in Zimbabwe, we now have what is called the prepaid water meters. I don't know if you also have them, where you have to pay, and you pay as you use the water, and therefore this means that only those who can afford to pay can afford to have the water. So private players are focused on profit, capitalistic in nature, and they are not worried about our situation. So the issue of ownership and control of these resources. Then the other injustice also manifests where our people are not accessing the water that they even pay taxes for. They then become creative. They drill balls, drill wells in their places. But in the process, they also disturb the other infrastructure, the sewer system, all those things. But at the same time, the injustice also manifests in the sense that the governments or the local authorities or the city councils then come in again to tax these people. Yet I would have drilled my own bore on my own. So you can see the injustice also manifesting in that way. Then the issue of climate justice, I think my colleague has already touched on that as a cause to the water crisis, but at the same time, we are failing to manage our relations with those who caused climate change. Those who were responsible for climate change, they are not actually being responsible in the provision of the water which we are in need of because of the situation that they caused. Then lastly, corruption in general. We also need to link our advocates to the discussions around corruption, because it is not the case that we don't have resources, but it is actually the few who are utilizing these resources. I think you have heard of some individuals like in countries like in Zimbabwe who have also become very regular visitors in Kenya, who can buy many vehicles for individuals instead of supplying or instead of providing for the majority through supporting water processes. So these are some of the things that I think when we are dealing with water issues, we need to look at it from a broader perspective: debt issues, tax justice issues, corruption issues, ownership issues, all those things, so that our advocacy becomes very, very strong. We plug off all the gaps, even the constitutional issues that I talked to, so that we plug off all the gaps that are still existing. Hence, we are able then to quantify our advocates to say, we want you to provide such an amount of water because of this and this, something like like that. So this is what we have been trying to do as a network, the Africa Faith Actors Network for Climate Justice under the All Africa Conference of Churches. We look at these things in a package collectively, so that when we address one, we are trying to address all the economic and ecological justice matters. And we appreciate your coming in as Grape to amplify the water justice issues in the whole conversation. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Can you clap thrice? Can you clap thrice? Can you clap thrice? Good. You're clapping for yourselves and clapping for the wonderful panelists. As we come to the end, we have heard that water is not just a Kenyan issue. Water scarcity is not, water justice is not, it is an African issue, it is a global issue. And that's why Grape talks about local to global and then global back to local. Again, to use the Kenyan language, back to the ground. Back to the ground. As a practical theologian, we finally have, after we do all the gymnastics, we hear all the expertise, the panel discussions, we must ask ourselves, so what? So as we conclude, and the conclusion will be very brief, in one sentence. One, you know many of them are reverends, so I know they are already in trouble. One sentence. How do you answer the so what question? What is the way forward in one sentence? And because the mic is this side, we can begin with Reverend Beatrice and move like this towards the end.
Okay, so my request to us all is that we should take the lead in advocating for water justice from our homes. Do not brush your teeth when your tap is open, and when you become a landlord, please don't wait until when it's raining so that you open the sewerage systems like I would see in Mlolongo, so that it is cleared as the water flows. So let's start with us before we go out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Makofi Kwake. Thank you so much.
Thank you. For me, my way forward or my request is for us to look at water issues within a broader conversation of economic and ecological justice. And then lastly, I also want us to utilize what is there. Our leaders adopted the theme or the Africa Water Vision 2026. Let us put them to task to say, it's you who adopted this theme. Please, let's see this happening on the ground in our different countries.
Thank you. Those are two sentences. In summary, you're saying let us push our leaders to be accountable. Thank you so much, Dr. One sentence.
Okay, for me, for water justice, we must be intentional. There's no shortcut about it.
Well done. Well done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Water justice is not politics. Let's hold our government accountable, and we be good stewards.
Accountability and stewardship. Asante ni sana. That brings us to the end of the panel discussion. I want to hand it back to the MC, and even him, we can give him 3 claps. Let's clap 3 times. And also in the way of Nyayo, we can clap another set of 3. And the last 3.
Thank you so much. I think we can give them, the panel and the panelists, a good clap, yeah, as they take back their seats. Thank you so much for that very, very engaging moment and season. We highly thank God, and we thank God for this far. Now, we are just about to come to the tail end of our conference, and all of us can attest that God is faithful. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that God is faithful? Yes, very, very faithful. Even in the absence of the government who we were waiting, they are still waiting for us somewhere. And with the words of Reverend Dr. Oyihenya, that we shall still get them. So here we stand. Maybe from the the floor. Maybe you have a question or, yes, a question. We have a question here. Any other person who has a question? From us here, we have one. So 1, 2, 3. I think I've given you water justice, 3 of you. That's okay, starting from him and then go in that direction for questions. Please.
Thank you so much, Reverend, for the floor. I'm Reverend Victor Wamunyu. I'm a PhD student here at St. Paul's University. I want to say thank you for the conference because for me, when I came, when I saw the theme, for me it was not a big issue, especially because I'm coming from DRC. DRC is more than 50% of clean water in Africa. So for me, I didn't know that it was a big issue, but when I was listening, I discovered that things that I was thinking that are normal are not normal. And for sure, I learned a lot, and I think when I'll go back home, I'll bring this conversation. And I'm so happy that Dr. Tinashe is here. I hope through ACC, the conversation can go even to DRC, because it have a lot of water, we need to use it. But now my question is, when I came in Kenya, I discovered that when in Kenya you are building, you have a type of putting the tank out on the building to save water and to have it in the houses. For us in DRC, we don't have that culture. But now my question, because we are talking about clean water, my question is, after many years, is this tank still provide a clean water? I don't know who can answer me, but it was a question that was coming from me because we are talking about clean water. But this tank, one is years after years, and people are drinking this water. Is it still clean? Thank you.
Is it still clean? And I think some of us here, they have used it for 20, 30 years. They might be, maybe we can have the questions and then we have them answered together. Our panelists, led by Dr. Kevin, will help answer these questions.
Well, thank you so much. I'm Odongo Kevin from Africa Water Ambassadors. And one of the speakers there was my colleague. And we champion water issues when it comes to young people's perspective and intergeneration. We know that water is a cross-cutting issue and requires a dialogue between the young and the elders. Well, my question goes to the entire interfaith. We've talked about water security, but there's something that you are not giving an emphasis on. Wastewater. We are just brushing on it. We know very well that Africa, we are the culprits who generate a lot of wastewater, but we are wasting it. And we are viewing wastewater as a waste. But there's an emerging technology that recover water from wastewater. As interfaith, what are we doing, or which conversation are we picking from that point? Because we know very well that it will reach a point whereby our fresh water is diminishing, but we have a lot of wastewater. What are we doing towards it? This is a question that cuts across both interfaith and all of us. Let's view wastewater as an economic opportunity. Two, in the next 1 week, the world will be having World Water Week. We are having World Water Week. As interfaith, what is our take? Which conversation are we taking there? As one of the speakers said, that church speaks with prophetic voice. I believe this is a prophetic voice that needs to be taken to that conversation to show the world that interfaith are at the forefront when it comes to water issues. And lastly, we need to push water agenda as a collective voice. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Water Week, where are we going? Interfaith. This is the roadmap. We have started here, and before we start Water Week, I think Reverend Dr. Ihenya, we shall have gotten to the CS, and we are going to have a conversation. Thank you so much. Last but not least.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I will first make a comment. this is one of the good conversations I've had where the civil societies and the religious leader are speaking about one thing in common. In most cases has been religious leaders are not doing this, or this is more of a civil society thing, but this is a corrective work, and I feel excited because there are people who are able to speak for the people who cannot be in these platforms. And speaking from someone who, one, has experienced a water scarcity because of maybe relocation, and being in a place where I can afford or talk about water, I would tell for sure there's a lot that needs to be done, moving from here now down there. My question is, he has mentioned about having a water week, and for clergy, we have a platform because we always use the pulpits. What can we do about community empowerment? You know, because yes, we'll have this conversation today. I will go home and maybe I'll get water. What about community mobilization, community empowerment? They feel that whatever they are doing, even if it's small, they can help the others to understand something. Because the language we are speaking here may not be discussed the same way with my grandmother at home. So the question is, what else can we do going forward? Yes, we have the contextual Bible materials, but then how else can we mobilize our members and even empower them to feel they belong to these spaces and feel that one day, one time, they'll also enjoy water as we are doing it. And also, they can dance in the shower because some of them, they don't even have showers. They are using basins. And even others, they even bathe once a day. All, you know, for high school, I heard my brother mention that they don't just shower every day. They have a system. For Form 1s, they shower in a specific day because they are controlling water. And let's say for grade 9, they shower on Thursdays, and the others on this particular day. And others, they would even go home without even having showered in school. And that is another cycle for another conversation. Thank you so much.
Give them a clap. All right, we had 3, but now 2 are coming. Should we give them water justice? Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. My question is about the migration of people, because I've learned that when people are building roads, they study, as our Reverend sister who say that quantifying things. So they quantify the frequency of cars that are passing so that they may build a road. What about the people migration? For instance, in the urban area, when people are becoming many, there is a need of too much water, meaning that how can we counterattack the politicization of water so that people may get access, or the monetization of water when people are building a living and renting house, so that people may get that 50 liters of water free. How can we counterattack this politicization when there is too much migration and also being added in the water article? Thank you.
Right, thank you so much. A good question. We have at the back there, before we come to Bishop here. All right.
Thank you. I'm James Kahumbu. I'm a student here. Thank you for the panel. Today, as I was coming, I was thinking a lot about this, and today I've learned a lot, so I have a lot of information. But I want to post a challenge to us as the SPU, that not only to talk, but to become an example of the water. Can we have recycle the water that we are using, a lot of waste water here around, so that we become an example, so that we become the walk of the talk. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Kevin, hold that. You are the one who is innovation near here. It must start here. Thank you. Last but not least, Bishop there.
Okay, thank you. I'm Reverend Batila Barasa from Reformed Church of East Africa, the deputy moderator of the church. Well, there's also Mother Wangari Maathai who said that nature is very unforgiving. That if you destroy nature, nature will destroy you. can also pick a conversation around riparian land and encroachment into forest areas, because you can see concrete coming up in forests and riparian land. Kenyans are people who would wish that lakes could dry so that they can have dry land. Wanaona tu hata Indian Ocean ingekuwa dry ingekuwa mzuri. We don't care. So how can we pick a conversation around riparian land and our forests, which are the sources of the very water we are talking about? Because one person said that it's not about the tap, but the source.
Yes.
The source is the riparian land and the forest. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we want to have responses to these questions. I think I'll be smart enough to remember. The first, I think Kiprimo will handle the issue of storage that has taken too long, and also the issue of urbanization, migration, that you will do. Dr. Kevin, you handle the issues of pulpit, message to the pulpit, and also how can we have this happening? Not now, we walk the talk here. I think that should be okay. Reverend Dr. Waihenya, you tell us whether the church is doing something with wastewater. I'm sure, I'm waiting to hear that from you. Dr. Waihenya will handle that, wastewater and all that. And then, again, I think we can have one of the Grape member, I don't know if it's Luis or Benedine, to talk about where we are going. There is the week that is coming. Yeah, what are we going to do? We must promise something and do. Yeah, so you will either one of you, Benedine, or you agree, or Luis, one of you. You tell us where are we going with the water week that is coming. And I think I am giving justice to every question. Good, starting from Kiplimo, going this way to Daktari.
Okay, thank you very much. My brother from Congo? Yes. So basically, issues of water storage, we call them water storage tanks, which facilitate the usage of the water within the house and maybe the toilets. So usually, it depends with the setup. For example, here in Kenya, institution, we have what you call Occupation and Safety Hazard Authority. It's their mandate. It is there by the law. After a certain period, they must evaluate and assess houses within some setups. And one critical thing on the infrastructure, they look at the water networks, power networks, what you call fiber networks, and they recommend that each and every water storage tank should be built on a specific stand for security and safety. And one, in terms of falling down. Two, as you store that water, it has what you call inlet and outlet. And there's a specific period of time that each and every house owner should clean and release the water out of those tanks. So periodically, over time. It's not like if it is put there, it stays there forever. No, it keeps on changing. And then again with water, you cannot, the piping systems, it depends with the kind of pipe that you are using. There's one we call PVC. PVC within 1 year, exposed to heat and lighting, it gets worn out. So in the process, you'll have to replace. On the process of replacing, you release the water. So that's how basically it works. Again, if you are within the metropolitan, like Nairobi, it's illegal to store that water. So it is being monitored by the Metropolitan Police Unit. It's called a water unit. It's illegal. Why? Because they look at it, there are people for public health. They usually monitor issues of mosquitoes and also water lagging with a certain period. So basically, there are structures put in place by entities that are supposed to serve that. And then my brother from, he talked about the migrating communities in terms of how can we consider them in terms of policy frameworks. How can they be factored in terms of policy? In terms of water access, Seniva. As I said, our devolved unit in terms of water justice, it varies from one devolved unit to another devolved unit. And I remember when we were developing our water policy in Baringo, there was that public participation. So it is the mandate of the planning, it's called economic and planning something unit within the county government, to do what we call mapping. You see, the data is being collected for farmers, livestock, because I know most people who move are livestock keepers anyway, and they know the number of boreholes. So basically they know, as we move to the north, how many boreholes and how many water pans do we have. So they start preparing for that disaster. And then it's again flooding. As you move to this region, they have to prepare. So it depends now with the community, because as you said, we have one of the progressive constitution in this country. If they cannot provide that, it's you as a community to ask and demand for that policy. And for over time, I've seen the development policies. We the elites, unaona Kiingereza mingi tunaongea hapa, ndio inaharibu maneno. And moving forward, in fact, as we said, these policies are not cast on stones. You can stand today and say, hiyo nini policy ya maji ilitengenezwa bila kuhusisha watu, na tunataka to review. And you factor in what you want. It's not like ile during the other constitution we had, unaletewa na unakubali vile iko. So basically, as we move forward in this water justice campaign and advocacy, let's train our people to demand what they think is right for them. For example, where you're coming from, you know, our family moved from this part to this part at this period of the year. So make sure during that process of transit, map it out. You know, this is the grazing zone, this is the watering point. Because in 2016, 2018, we had a terrible problem in Baringo County. All the 200 watering points for the pastoral community had been taken over by the bandits, because that was the only clean access point. So we've mapped out and we knew this is the problem. And you tell the security agencies, this is where the problem is. So basically, even you, let it be anchored in a law, especially water service provision has been devolved. As you discuss this matter, say, we're coming from this pastoral community, from this period of time, we usually have problems in terms of climate change. We want watering points put along this route. Because mambo ya malisho na maji inaambatana. Na pia depending with also other needs. Thank you very much. Hopefully I've tackled your expectation.
Thank you. A clap for him. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you. There's a question on the pulpit. In the tradition I come from, the old design for the older churches, the pulpit was raised. And there was a theological understanding there of the work of preaching, which is that the person who is preaching is bringing the voice of God to the people, but also representing the people to God. So I see myself, the pulpit, as a place of empowering people, not telling them to just tithe, but to empower them so that there can be real and meaningful transformation in the communities that we are serving. And then not to just think of the pulpit that is visible, that we see, but to see the life of the Christians, the community of faith that gathers every Sunday, to see those also as everyday pulpits. You know, the work of the pastor is what, even biblically, is to equip the saints for the work of service. So it is to equip these people from the visible pulpit so that they can be visible pulpits wherever they are. And that, I think, will be bringing the change to where it is needed. So, in other words, it is taking the word of God to the ground. I think that's us to put it in a very simplified way. That is part of how we do it. So the CBS material, that's one of the ways. It is discipleship material for small groups, so that we are not just maybe discussing about prayer only or the Holy Spirit, but now we can talk about water in the preaching. I think we've had so many passages today. Already, if it's the water week, the pastors in the house can do a sermon, and we already have many, many illustrations. We were told about the conversation Jesus is having with the woman at the well. In fact, that one I've thought about how I can bring him. I have seen. So that is it. And this is part of it also. We cannot give what we do not have. And that's why we organize these sort of discussions for our students here in the School of Theology, because as you're being formed, we are imagining the impact and transformation you are having in the community that you are serving. There was a conversation about what we can do from St. Paul's perspective as far as the practical solution. So this is one of it, because remember, the work of the university is teaching, research and community engagement. I think we are fulfilling that. But insofar as the infrastructure is concerned, yes, there is still work to do. As I like to say, the journey continues. The journey?
Aluta continua. Thank you so much. Maybe we can have Reverend Oyenya tell us about wastewater. We talk about wastelands in the Bible. Do you have wastewater here?
Now, the problem with Reverend Kyoge is telling me to answer, but he's already answering. So that is one of the answers. So thank you so much. I think one of the main discussions we need to have when it comes to water management is about the wastewater. And we have a lot to learn, because when you go to a place called Roi here in Kenya, you find a whole dam whereby all the waste from Nairobi goes. But that water, nothing, and totally nothing. But if you go to other countries, the water is converted and pumped back to be used. But for us, we don't have such a system. Coming closer to where we are here in, this is Limuru. So where we have the junction to go to, I can't remember the place very well, but there is a place where there used to be a waste, something like a sewer. But again, nothing beyond that. That is our problem. And what is the church doing? The church is now engaging developers on a very serious note and organizing seminars, and I encourage all the churches to do this. Instead of putting up a block like this one, and then having it connected to the sewer system, all the, what do we call this thing we make where there are no sewer systems?
Septic tanks.
Septic tanks. Instead of having a septic tank, what we are advocating and encouraging our people to do, they do what we call biodigesters. At the moment you do a biodigester, all that, because of that system, which is simpler than putting up a septic tank, it is cheaper, so that you have clean water at the end, because a biodigester ensures that at the end we have clean water. But that clean water, although you cannot drink it, but that is good water for irrigation and for your flower gardens. Instead of using clean, that water from the tap, as we call it, that is what the church is doing. If you go to a place, if I can mention one, if you go to a place like Ongata Rongai here in Nairobi, which is very concentrated, that is what the church is working together with the community to educate them, and now they are converting their waste water from going to the sewer or going to septic tanks to what we are calling the biodigesters, and within a fraction of a time, the water is clean without any smell, and the same is plowed back to their lands. That is one thing. So the church must do that, so that we are able to economize on our water usage. That is number one. Number two, we have the advocacy wing in the church. We have what we call the JPRC, Justice, Peace, Reconciliation, and Creation. That is the wing which is being used now to connect the church with the people, so that we are able now to address the emerging issues. And one of the emerging issues is this matter of water, which is now, very vibrantly discussed within the churches. I call upon all of us and also our Muslim brothers to have such wings because if we don't tell people about this and purposefully plan to have those advocacy platforms, then we will not be able to save or to do anything on this wastewater. Because even the name itself is wrong. This is not wastewater. This is what we call usable water. But when we blood it, it is just like having a baby and calling the baby bad boy. Be assured the boy will be bad. So let us agree that even the name is wrong because it is not waste water. It is reusable water. Number 3, what the church is doing is, engaging our schools. One of the areas, let me talk about Presbyterian Church, we are strong in is the area of education. We have more than 400 schools, and we have, so many private schools. What we are doing again is influencing those schools on environmental matters, and especially on issues of water. If there is a place where we have a lot of, let me just use the name which is used, a lot of wastewater, it is in our schools. Now, when we teach those children on how to recycle that water, let me tell you, that thing will be ingrained in them and they will be able to keep that. So please, even us, let us use our schools. And the moment we influence those young children on matters water recycling, it will now be a culture within our community. So because there is that water which is being wasted, let us show them and we'll be able to change the entire community. Number 4, using the pulpit, it has been mentioned. Talk about it. We are readers. Let us talk about it. Let us also demonstrate the same within our churches. As we preach, as we influence people, let us still do it in our churches. When we talk about the, biodigesters in our homes, let us also have biodigesters in our churches, because that is the way to go. Then, we're also partnering with our friends. Unfortunately, again, our country is not innovation-oriented. That is our tragedy. But we are partnering with our friends from other countries where they are providing us with small gadgets which are helping people to be able to recycle those water and also to have clean tap water, whereby they are able to have, these stagnant water, where there are mosquitoes, where there are what. Now they are able to use those gadgets and they have clean water instead of having jerrycans and jerrycans of water, which is threatening their health. That is another area. Unfortunately, because we are getting quite a number of them and distributing, at times, I remember we distributed these gadgets to a place called in Masairan. I might forget the name, but they didn't have that water to purify. So they were asking us, where do we take this? Because they don't have even that dirty water to purify. So we provide water, then we ensure the water is clean. Finally, it is working with our universities. That is one area. The church has got, and also the mosques, we have got a big advantage of influencing our universities to do research on water and the water waste. Is it wastewater, as we are calling it, reusable water management? We need to talk about this. I mentioned in my talking here about one of our own, a young man whom we sent to UK to study on this area. And let me tell you, that is the way to go. If we can, as churches, influence our people to go, and also try to influence to come back so that they come and help establish a reusable water research center here in our universities. Look at the universities which are fronted by the church and religious organizations, for us to know how much we can be able to influence. We have St. Paul's, where we are, is a church-owned institution. Few kilometers from here, we have Presbyterian University, church-owned institution. We have Nazarene University, Park University, Balaton University, Scots University, Methodist University, Catholic University. What are we doing? So the church has got no excuse. We must establish this department. Assume we have a department of reusable water management, and they are all science-oriented. They are studying medicine, they are studying nursing, they are studying sijui what, but we are not betting on the area of innovation. Ask them, they'll say we don't have money, but they have money to train teachers. So we don't know why we are not able to influence our university. We also have Uma University along Kajiado, owned by the Muslim brothers. But now, nothing. You know, we are very good at copy and paste. The only question we are asking ourselves is a course manageable? I mean, marketable. Who markets that which we are calling marketable? We are not looking at the gaps within the community, gaps within science, so that we step in. I am challenging us that we now go to the line of innovation. We influence our universities. We have more than the government, definitely, but we are not doing what is required to be done. Can we, instead of partnering with Columbia University, I'm talking about PCA, instead of partnering with Columbia University to provide a course in teaching or nursing. Anybody can be a nurse, including me, but not everybody can be a water engineer. So that is the line to go. Let us look at what is happening in the US. Let us look at how they manage to fix their issue of environment so that they are able to get clean water, because they have done it perfectly well. But it will require, Dr. Kevin, it will require research. And the church must lead the way. So I don't know why we are not getting it right, but the church must now step in and use the opportunity they have, the religious organization, including imams, so that we now come together and say, this is where our problem is. So for WCRC, this is where we need support. Let us collaborate with our university. I know I'm part of the executive of WCRC, but so I don't know whom I'm talking to. So, but this is the area. Dr. Ruka is telling me I'm talking to myself. You see, this is the area we need collaboration, so that we now say, this is one area we need to perfect our science and whatever, so that we become a solution to our community. So let us work with our universities, because we own those universities. Amen? Aya, sawa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A clap for Daktari. Thank you so much. I think now we are satisfied. That conversation was very, very informative, and we thank God. Oh yeah, there's one
Yes,
for Grape.
there's one more question for
I thought you were
Grape.
coming for the microphone.
No.
Tell
not
us
really.
about Water Week.
Sure. Our journey as the Grape team continues, right? Grape team in the house? We began 4 years ago, and so the journey to push for the 50 liters of water per household continues. And so, per person, sorry, or an equivalent cash compensation continues. So what are we gonna do? We have the World Water Week, this coming week, 23rd to 27th. And within the Grape team, we have a blend of reverence and the civil society organizations. And so the reverence in the room within the Grape team, we are going to push our conversations at the pulpit and have this conversation on the CBS rollout, because we have a very beautiful manual. I hope each of us can grab a copy. And those are the conversations we are going to have at the pulpit in our churches. Number two, with us from the civil society organizations, we have all these conversations around budget making process. Janet Carroll, we are going to push these conversations from the citizen perspective during the public participation. Let them put it as a priority. Let them have water as a priority, because we are saying water is a right and not a privilege. So if they have it as a conversations from those particular wards, we all come from villages, we all come from wards. If they pinpoint that as a first priority, then this will be pushed across. Nonetheless, Reverend Dr. Waihenya promised us earlier today that yes, as much as we didn't have the government representation here, it doesn't stop here. So we are going to knock on those doors. We are going to continue knocking on those doors together with you and the team here and present our ask to the government. Let us push these and have these conversations and have them prioritize this conversation. Otherwise, Luis, Wakili, do you have anything to add from the Grape team? So thank you. We see each other next time. Let's have this conversation ongoing through our other platforms. Thank you and God bless you.
Amen. Thank you. Last but not least, we are talking about CBS, and I'm sure most of us are hearing about CBS, and it was shown to us here. We have about 30 copies we would want to share with us, and this what we are sharing is not to be shelved, but this conversation we are talking about, like engaging our churches, and I'm sure I heard Malik talk about this to happen in the mosque. Yes. So we have sparked to the Muslim brothers and sisters. So we have it with us here. So this is what we are telling ourselves. Instead of having it as a book, we make it moving, rolling to the youth, to the women, to the men, to all of us, because that is the way to go. I think, and I hope you promised you do that. Will you do that? Good. Now, we shall have it as we move out. The Grape team will ensure that almost all of us, if not all of us, will have a copy so that we can go and disseminate this information. Remember, do not keep it. It is to be shared. That is the essence, the importance of that. So don't just carry it if you just go and make it, part of your shelves. But you can carry it and make sure that you will spread the gospel. So in this together, we have agreed, we are going to do it together. Now, we have come to the end of our conference, 2026, and we thank God for giving us a good time. And this is the way to go. Somebody said that they will not promise us another Limuru, but we have another Limuru, as you can see now. It is not the way it was in the morning. So you enjoy the good, serene places of St. Paul's. As we will be having networking lunch. We have lunch, and maybe we can get somebody to give us notice of hospitality, and then we shall now end with prayers, and we interact as we eat. Notice of hospitality? Okay, who? I'm being advised that we will have a photo, a group photo, our church leaders and Muslim leaders. We have them here, and part of us behind them, so that they can commemorate this. But maybe before that, we can have a notice of hospitality. Let's give it up the notice of hospitality. There is of it.
Thank you. Once we are done with the photos, we will share lunch together at Abigail. It's prepared for each and every one of us. And it's in plenty. We are really Africans. And if you come from where I come from, food is done in plenty. It's the same we have in Kikuyu, we say.
Real-world skills employers fight for. Choose from our outstanding schools: business and leadership, health sciences, communication and computer studies, education and social sciences, and the School of Theology. All delivered with excellence and inspiration. Picture vibrant student life with friendships, clubs, sports and spiritual growth across our beautiful campuses in Limuru, Nairobi, Nakuru, and the virtual campus, as well as our TVET Institute. This is where leaders are built. This is where your success story begins. Are you ready to join the University of Choice? The September intake is now open. Visit www.spu.ac.ke or call our toll-free number 080-072-3000. St. Paul's University, the University of Choice.
Welcome to a captivating journey through the vibrant world of St. Paul's University, a place where traditions meet innovation and knowledge finds its voice. In this documentary, we'll explore the unique features that set St. Paul's University apart. But first, take a moment to immerse yourself with the breathtaking natural beauty of our country, Kenya. From the vast landscapes and diverse cultures, St. Paul's University is nestled in a setting that reflects the truest essence of our nation. Only a few kilometers from Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, St. Paul's University has a geographical advantage that attracts both local and international students. But beyond the stunning sceneries lies the beating heart of St. Paul's University. Here, intellectual exploration thrives and our campuses become hives of innovation and growth. Technology and youth are driving forces for change. And at St. Paul's University, we have made it our mission to embrace the global theme as we commit to academic excellence and spiritual formation. Our commitment to the e-learning and the blended learning has caught the attention of international students seeking for quality education. Programs like our PhD in Development Studies, Theology and Business have attracted students across Africa and are open to ambitious learners from around the world. Witness how our innovative approach to remote teaching has transformed the educational experience, ensuring that no barriers hinder the pursuit of knowledge. At St. Paul's University, the virtual campus takes the center stage in the pursuit of academic excellence. Embracing the advancements of technology, the university has created a state-of-the-art online learning platform. This virtual campus provides students with a seamless and immersive educational experience, transcending their geographical boundaries. With interactive virtual classrooms, collaborative tools, and a global community of learners, St. Paul's University ensures that education remains accessible and impactful, empowering students to thrive while at the same time dedicating to combat climate change. St. Paul's University truly exemplifies innovation and global citizenship. The university creates an inclusive and forward-thinking educational environment that empowers students to excel academically while making a positive impact in the world. But St. Paul's University is not just a place for academia. It is a vibrant hub for creativity and innovation. We take immense pride in showcasing the extraordinary achievements of our students from groundbreaking initiatives like EcoBanner, where students invented the sanitary pads made from banana fiber.
Among the Innovation Week's champions are the winners of 2022 HALT Prize, EcoBanner, from St. Paul's University, who employed the concept of green and circular economy to produce biodegradable sanitary pads from banana fiber. I have asked the Ministry of Education, in recognition of their innovation, to work with these young innovators on the delivery of our commitment to provide sanitary pads for schools in Kenya.
These endeavors embody our dedication to nurturing the entrepreneurial spirit and making a positive impact in the society. Yet, our influence extends beyond confines of our campus. Through impactful outreach programs and dynamic research programs, St. Paul's University is actively contributing to the community and beyond. Collaborations with esteemed organizations like World Vision, Medical Benevolence, and Texas University on nurse capacity building exemplifies our commitment to holistic development and social transformation. This is the story of St. Paul's University, where tradition intertwines with innovation and knowledge flourishes in every corner. Join us today and embrace the endless possibilities, shape a brighter future, and make a lasting impact on generations to come.